They pulled her from the rubble with 9 bullet holes in her body and a promise she'd broken written in blood across the dirt. The medic who swore she'd never carry a rifle. The quiet girl everyone underestimated. The woman who became a ghost twice. Once when they left her for dead, and once when they discovered who she really was. Senior Chief Ronan Pike pressed 2 fingers against her throat and felt something impossible. A pulse. Thin as a whisper, stubborn as steel. Around him, the smoking ruins of Darun still smoldered. His team had been sweeping for bodies, not survivors. But Harper Sloan wasn't done yet. What happened in that collapsed building the night before had already rewritten the rulebook. Now the only question was whether she'd live long enough to face what came next. If you want to see how a promise, a rifle, and 9 bullets changed everything, stay with me until the very end. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Harper's story travels. The desert night air tasted like copper and diesel fuel when Harper Sloan first stepped off the C-130 at Forward Operating Base Wraith. 22 years old. Navy Hospital Corpsman, 2nd class. Medical kit slung across her back like a shield. She'd been in country for exactly 4 minutes, and already 3 Marines were staring at her like she'd wandered onto the wrong movie set. "That's the doc?" one of them said, not bothering to lower his voice. Harper didn't look, didn't react. She'd heard variations of that question in every posting, every briefing, every time she walked into a room in uniform. The doubt came with the job when you were 5'4", baby-faced, and soft-spoken. When you looked like somebody's kid sister who got lost on the way to college. She adjusted her pack and kept walking toward the TOC, the Tactical Operations Center, where her check-in brief was waiting. Boots crunched on gravel. Somewhere in the distance, a generator growled. The base was a collection of blast walls, sandbags, and exhaustion, everything painted the same shade of tan. It smelled like sweat, gun oil, and bad coffee. "Sloan?" She turned. A staff sergeant stood in the shadow of a HESCO barrier, clipboard in one hand, cigarette in the other. His name tape read Keller. He looked her up and down with the same skeptical expression she'd seen 100 times before. "That's me," Harper said. "You're the corpsman attached to 2nd Platoon?" "Yes, Staff Sergeant." Keller took a drag, blew smoke sideways. "How old are you?" "Old enough to do my job." His eyebrow twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "We'll see. Lieutenant's waiting inside. Don't keep him." The TOC was a plywood box with maps on the walls and radios crackling static. Lieutenant Chen sat behind a folding table, reading through a stack of personnel files with the focus of someone who didn't sleep much. He glanced up when Harper entered. "Sloan, have a seat." She sat. The metal chair was bolted to the floor and slightly crooked. Chen closed the file. "Your instructors at Field Medical Service School gave you high marks. Top of your class in trauma management. You did a rotation at Balboa Naval Medical Center before this. Solid record." "Thank you, sir." "But you've never been downrange before." "No, sir." "This isn't a hospital. No trauma bays, no backup, no second chances." He leaned forward, folding his hands on the table. "When things go bad out here, they go bad fast. You stay with the squad, you do your job, and you don't try to be a hero. Clear?" "Crystal, sir." Chen studied her for a moment. Harper could feel the weight of it, the assessment, the doubt, the same question everyone always asked without saying it out loud. "Can you handle this?" "You'll link up with 2nd Platoon at 0600, Chen said finally. "Sergeant Ortiz runs that squad. He's solid. Listen to him. Stay in your lane." "Roger that, sir." "And Sloan?" "Sir?" "Out here, hesitation kills. If you freeze, people die. Don't freeze." Harper nodded. "I won't." By dawn, Harper had her gear squared away and was standing in the motor pool with 2nd Platoon. 9 Marines, all of them older, bigger, louder. They moved with the kind of casual confidence that came from repetition, checking weapons, adjusting plate carriers, trading insults like ammunition. Sergeant Ortiz approached her with a thermos of coffee and a look that said he'd already made up his mind about her. "You Sloan?" "Yes, Sergeant." "You ever treat a sucking chest wound in the back of a moving MRAP while taking fire?" "No, Sergeant." You ever pulled security while doing a needle decompression? No, Sergeant. You ever had to choose between two casualties and only enough blood products for one? Harper met his eyes. Not yet. Ortiz grunted. Fair answer. He handed her the thermos. Drink. We roll in 20. Stay close, stay quiet. And if I tell you to move, you move. Got it? Got it? The convoy rolled out under a sky the color of old bruises. 3 MRAPs, spaced 50 meters apart, crawling through a landscape that looked like the moon had given up. Harper sat in the back of the second vehicle, wedged between a machine gunner named Davies and a rifleman named Choi. The cabin smelled like sweat and lubricant. So, Doc, Choi said, grinning, you ever fire a rifle? Harper kept her eyes on the road visible through the rear window. I'm a medic. That's not what I asked. I know, Davies laughed. She's dodging the question, Choi. That means no. It means I'm here to keep you alive, not shoot your rifle for you, Harper said evenly. Damn, Doc's got some bark, Davies said, still laughing. I like that. The radio crackled. Ortiz's voice cut through. All vehicles, eyes up. Entering red zone now. The easy banter died. Everyone shifted, small adjustments in posture, hands drifting toward weapons. Harper felt the tension like a change in air pressure. The red zone was IED country. Every shadow, every pile of rubble, every parked car could be the last thing you saw. The MRAPs slowed. Harper's pulse ticked upward, steady but insistent. She ran through her mental checklist: tourniquet placement, airway management, hemorrhage control. If something happened, she had to be faster than the bleeding. Nothing happened. They rolled through the red zone and reached the village of Khosrin without incident. The mission was simple. Link up with local militia, assess the security situation, get out. Harper stayed with the vehicles while Ortiz and 4 Marines moved into the cluster of flat-roofed buildings ahead. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. Then the radio barked. Contact! RPG, northwest corner. The explosion hit like a fist through the air. Harper's ears rang. Smoke billowed from somewhere inside the village. Gunfire followed, sharp, chaotic, overlapping. Doc, move! Davies grabbed her pack and hauled her toward the ramp. We're going in! Harper's training kicked in before her fear could catch up. She followed Davies and Choi into the village, boots pounding dirt, adrenaline sharpening everything into high definition. The buildings blurred past. Muzzle flashes flickered in windows. Someone was screaming into the radio. They found Ortiz pinned behind a low stone wall with 2 other Marines. Blood streaked down one man's arm. The other looked pale, shocky. Harper dropped to her knees beside them. Where are you hit? Arm, the first Marine gasped. Shrapnel, I think. Let me see. She ripped open his sleeve. Jagged metal fragments were buried in the muscle, bleeding but not arterial. She packed the wound with gauze, wrapped it tight, hit him with a morphine auto-injector. You're good, she said. Stay down. The second Marine was worse, pupils dilated, breathing shallow. Harper checked his torso and found the entry wound low on his side. No exit. Internal bleeding, probably. Choi, get on that radio, Harper said, her voice calm and flat. We need medevac now. Tell them 1 urgent surgical. Ortiz leaned over the wall, fired 3 rounds, ducked back. How long can he wait? Not long, Harper said. She started an IV line, hand steady despite the noise. 10 minutes? Maybe 15? We don't have 15 minutes. Another explosion rocked the street. Dust rained down. Harper kept working, fluid bolus, pressure dressing, constant reassessment. The Marine's pulse was thready. She was losing him. Doc, we gotta move, Davies shouted. Not yet. They're flanking us. Harper didn't look up. Then stop them. Ortiz barked orders. The Marines shifted positions, laying down suppressive fire. Harper finished the IV and leaned close to the wounded Marine's ear. Stay with me, she said quietly. You don't get to check out yet. His eyes fluttered. Hurts. I know. I've got you. The gunfire intensified. Someone threw a smoke grenade. Purple haze filled the street. Harper grabbed the wounded Marine under the shoulders and started dragging him toward the extraction point, every muscle in her body screaming. Choi appeared beside her, took the other side. Together they hauled him through the smoke and chaos. The medevac bird came in low and angry, rotors chewing the air. They loaded both casualties, Harper shouting vitals to the flight medic over the noise. Then the helo lifted, and the street went quiet except for ringing ears and ragged breathing. Ortiz walked over, face streaked with dust and sweat. "You did good, Doc." Harper nodded, too tired to speak. "Seriously," Ortiz said. "You didn't freeze. That counts for something." "Thanks, Sergeant." He studied her for a moment. "You ever need to carry a rifle, you let me know." Harper thought about the promise she'd made to her mother, the one she'd whispered the night before deployment, sitting in her childhood bedroom with the lights off. "I'll save lives, Mom. I won't take them." "I'm good," Harper said. "I've got my kit." "All right. Your call." That night, back at the FOB, Harper sat alone on the roof of the medical hooch, staring at the stars. The adrenaline had burned off, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion that felt almost peaceful. She replayed the firefight in her mind, every decision, every second. She'd done her job. The Marines had lived. That was enough. Footsteps scuffed the roof behind her. She turned. It was Corporal Rains, one of the Marines from Ortiz's squad. He carried 2 MREs and a bottle of water. "Figured you didn't eat yet," Rains said, handing her one of the MREs. "Thanks." He sat down a few feet away, ripped open his meal. "Heard you were solid today." "Just doing the job." "Nah, lots of people do the job. You didn't flinch. That's different." He paused, chewing thoughtfully. "You know what they're saying about you?" Harper sighed. "What?" "That you're tougher than you look." She almost laughed. "High praise." "From this crew?" "Yeah, it is." They ate in silence for a while. The desert stretched out below them, dark and endless. Harper thought about home, her mother's kitchen, the smell of coffee in the morning, the weight of a promise made in safety. "Can I ask you something?" Rains said. "Sure." "Why'd you join? You're smart. Could have done anything. Why this?" Harper considered the question. She'd been asked it before, by recruiters, by instructors, by her own reflection in the mirror. The answer was never simple. "Because I wanted to matter," she said finally. "I wanted to do something that counted." Rains nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that. What about you?" "Me? I just wanted to shoot bad guys and see the world." He grinned. "Turns out the world's mostly sand and bad coffee." Harper smiled despite herself. "Could be worse." "Could be better, too." They finished their meals and sat there until the cold drove them back inside. Harper climbed down the ladder, shouldered her pack, and headed for her bunk. Sleep came fast and dreamless. 3 days later, the nightmare started. The mission briefing was routine: clear a suspected weapons cache in a compound outside Darun, link up with local forces, exfil before dawn. Harper sat in the back of the briefing tent, half listening while Lieutenant Chen pointed at satellite images and talked about egress routes. "This one's straightforward," Chen said. "In and out, but stay sharp. Intel says the compound's been abandoned for weeks, but we don't take chances." Ortiz raised his hand. "Doc stays with the vehicles?" "Negative. We're taking her in. If we find wounded civilians, I want a corpsman on site." Harper nodded. She'd done plenty of these by now. Quick hits, minimal contact. The adrenaline didn't even spike anymore. They rolled out at 0200. The convoy moved through the dark like a convoy of ghosts, headlights off, NVGs down. Harper sat in silence, running through her mental checklist again. Tourniquets, airway adjuncts, chest seals, the familiar rhythm of preparation. The compound appeared through the green glow of night vision, a cluster of low buildings surrounded by a crumbling wall. The MRAP stopped 100 meters out. The Marines dismounted, formed up, moved in. Harper followed Ortiz through the breach in the wall. The compound was quiet, too quiet. No lights, no movement, no sound. Just the crunch of boots on gravel and the whisper of wind through broken windows. "Spread out," Ortiz said softly. 2-man teams. Doc, you're with me. They moved through the main courtyard. Harper's pulse was steady, controlled. This was the part she'd gotten good at. The controlled chaos, the heightened awareness, the sense of being exactly where she needed to be. Then Choi's voice crackled over the radio. "Sergeant, we got something in the southeast building. Looks like medical supplies, a lot of them." Ortiz keyed his mic. "Roger, hold position. We're coming to you." They crossed the courtyard and entered the southeast building. It was darker inside, the air thick with dust. Harper could smell old concrete and something chemical, disinfectant, maybe. Choi and Davies stood near a stack of crates, flashlights trained on the contents. "Jesus," Davies muttered. "This is enough to run a field hospital." Harper stepped closer. The crates were filled with IV bags, antibiotics, surgical kits, all high quality, all recent. She frowned. "This doesn't make sense," she said. "Why abandon all this?" "Maybe they left in a hurry," Choi said. Ortiz didn't look convinced. Or maybe the explosion tore through the building like the world cracking open. Harper felt herself lifted, thrown, slammed into something hard. The air turned to fire and dust. Her ears screamed. Her vision whited out. For a moment, she didn't know which way was up. Then the pain hit. She tried to move, couldn't. Something heavy was pinning her legs. She blinked, coughed, tasted blood. The dust was so thick she could barely see. Somewhere close by, someone was screaming. "Ortiz!" Harper choked out. "Choi! Davies!" No answer, just ringing silence and the crackle of fire. Harper forced herself to focus. Inventory. Legs pinned but probably not broken. Left arm throbbing. Ribs bruised, maybe cracked. Head pounding. She reached down, felt the weight on her legs. Concrete, rebar, debris. She pulled. Nothing moved. "Help!" she shouted. "Anyone!" A groan answered her. Close, maybe 10 feet away. Harper twisted, ignoring the pain, and saw a figure slumped against the far wall. Choi. Blood ran down his face. His leg was bent at an angle that made her stomach lurch. "Choi, can you hear me?" He coughed, spat blood. "Doc?" "I'm here. Don't move." Can't feel my leg." Harper looked around desperately. The building had partially collapsed. Smoke poured through the gaps in the ceiling. Fire licked at the edges of the room. She could hear voices outside, shouting, radios, chaos, but they sounded distant, unreachable. She pulled at the debris again. This time, something shifted. She gritted her teeth and pulled harder, ignoring the sharp pain in her ribs. The concrete slab moved an inch, then another. Finally, her legs came free. Harper crawled toward Choi. Her medical kit was still strapped to her back. Miracle number 1. She pulled it around, hands shaking, and dug out her supplies. "Talk to me, Choi," she said, assessing his injuries. "Stay with me." "Hurts," he gasped. "I know, I've got you." His leg was badly fractured, bone visible through torn fabric. Harper applied a tourniquet above the break, tightened it until the bleeding slowed. She splinted the leg with a broken piece of rebar and medical tape. It wasn't pretty, but it would hold. "You're going to be okay," she told him. "Just breathe." Then she heard it. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. Not friendly. Harper froze. Through the smoke, she saw shadows moving outside the collapsed wall. 3 figures, maybe 4. They were speaking in Arabic, voices low and urgent. Enemy fighters, checking the blast site. Harper's heart hammered. She looked at Choi, barely conscious, unable to move. She looked at her medical kit. Then she looked at the rifle lying in the rubble 5 feet away, half buried in dust. Davies' rifle. He must have dropped it in the blast. The promise she'd made to her mother echoed in her mind. "I'll save lives, Mom. I won't take them." But the fighters were getting closer, and Choi was going to die if she didn't do something. Harper reached for the rifle. Her hands closed around the stock. It felt heavier than she remembered. Heavier than the training rifles at boot camp, heavier than the .2. 2 her father had taught her to shoot when she was 12. This was real. This was the line she'd promised never to cross. The shadows moved closer. One of them was carrying an RPG. Harper brought the rifle up, settled the stock against her shoulder, found the sight picture. Muscle memory took over, breathing steady, finger light on the trigger, focus narrowing to a single point. I'm sorry, Mom, she thought, but I can't let him die. She fired. The first shot dropped the man with the RPG. The second took down the fighter behind him. The third missed, sparked off concrete. The fourth didn't. Then silence. Harper lowered the rifle. Her hands were shaking now. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. She'd just killed 2 people. Maybe 3. The medic who swore she'd never carry a rifle. Doc? Choi's voice was faint. What happened? Harper set the rifle down and moved back to his side. Nothing, she said quietly. Just keeping you alive. Outside, the shouting intensified. American voices now, Ortiz, Rains, others. The cavalry had arrived. In here, Harper yelled. We're in here! Boots pounded through the rubble. Ortiz appeared through the smoke, rifle up, eyes wild. He saw Harper, saw Choi, saw the bodies outside. What the hell happened? Ortiz demanded. Harper met his eyes. They came to finish us off. I didn't let them. Ortiz stared at her for a long moment, then he nodded. Good. They carried Choi out on a makeshift stretcher. Harper walked beside him, one hand on his shoulder, murmuring reassurances. The medevac was already inbound. She stayed with him until they loaded him onto the bird, until the rotors lifted him away into the night. When she turned around, Ortiz was standing there with the rifle she'd used. You know what you just did? He asked. Harper nodded slowly. Yeah. That was some damn fine shooting. I'm a medic, Sergeant. You're more than that now. He handed her the rifle. Keep it. You've earned it. Harper looked at the weapon in her hands. It felt different now, not heavier, not lighter, just different. I made a promise, she said quietly. Sometimes promises break, Ortiz said. Doesn't mean you're broken. Harper didn't answer. She slung the rifle over her shoulder and walked back to the MRAP, feeling the weight of it with every step. The after-action report was straightforward. Secondary explosion, 2 casualties, 3 enemy KYA. Harper's name appeared once, listed as the treating corpsman. No mention of the rifle, no mention of the shots fired. But word spread anyway. It always did. By the time Harper made it back to the FOB, everyone knew. The quiet medic had picked up a rifle and dropped 3 fighters without hesitation. The girl everyone underestimated had just saved 2 Marines and walked out like it was nothing. Lieutenant Chen called her into the TOC that night. Sit down, Sloan. Harper sat. Chen leaned back in his chair, studying her. Sergeant Ortiz filed his report. He says you engaged hostile forces with a rifle you found in the rubble. Is that accurate? Yes, sir. You're a corpsman, not a rifleman. I know, sir. So why'd you do it? Harper chose her words carefully. Because Choi was down and couldn't defend himself, and the alternative was letting him die. Chen was quiet for a moment. Fair enough. He pulled a file from his desk and opened it. Before you joined the Navy, you competed in junior shooting competitions, national level. You placed in the top 5 at the Junior Olympics. Harper's stomach dropped. Sir, why didn't you list that in your service record? Because I didn't want it to define me, Harper said quietly. I wanted to be a medic, not a shooter. Well, you're both now. Chen closed the file. And that makes you valuable, more valuable than you know. I just want to do my job, sir. Your job just got bigger. Chen leaned forward. We're moving you to a new unit, Special Operations Support. They need corpsmen who can think under pressure and handle a weapon if things go sideways. Harper felt something cold settle in her chest. I'd prefer to stay with 2nd Platoon, sir. Noted. Request denied. Chen's expression softened slightly. Look, Sloan, you're good at what you do, better than good. But out here, being good at one thing isn't enough. You need to be flexible, adaptable, and you just proved you can be both. When do I transfer? Tomorrow, briefing at 0800. Harper stood. Yes, sir. As she turned to leave, Chen spoke again. Sloan? Sir? The promise you made to never carry a rifle. Was it to your mother? Harper hesitated. How did you know? Because I made the same promise to mine. Chen smiled faintly, and I broke it too. Welcome to the war, Doc. That night, Harper sat on the roof again, staring at the stars. The rifle lay beside her, cleaned and oiled. She ran her fingers along the barrel, feeling the cold metal, the hard reality of what she'd become. Her phone buzzed. A message from home. Her mother. Thinking of you, sweetheart. Stay safe. Remember your promise. Harper stared at the screen for a long time. Then she typed a response. I remember, Mom. I'm trying. She hit send and set the phone down. The stars offered no answers. The desert offered no comfort. But somewhere out there, Choi was alive because she'd pulled that trigger. And maybe that was enough. For now. The next morning, Harper reported to the new unit. The briefing room was smaller, the Marines quieter, the mission parameters classified. She sat in the back and listened as the officer in charge, a major named Kincaid, outlined the next operation. We're hitting a high-value target outside Kosrin, Kincaid said. Intel says there's a bomb maker holed up in a compound with at least a dozen fighters. This is a night raid. In. Neutralize the target. Out. Questions? A hand went up. What's the corpsman situation? Kincaid glanced at Harper. We've got one. She'll be attached to Alpha Team. A few heads turned. Harper ignored them. Any other questions? Kincaid asked. Silence. Good. We roll at 2200. Get some rest. Harper stood and headed for the door. A voice stopped her. Doc. She turned. It was Senior Chief Ronan Pike, the SEAL medic who'd be leading the medical side of the operation. He was older than these others, mid-30s, with the kind of calm intensity that came from seeing too much. You're Sloan? Pike asked. Yes, Senior Chief. Heard about the firefight in Darun. Nice shooting. Thank you. Pike studied her. You good with carrying a rifle on this op? Harper met his eyes. If I have to. Fair enough. He handed her a small med kit. This is for you. Compact, high speed. Better than the standard issue stuff. You'll need it where we're going. Harper took the kit. What makes you think I'll need it? Pike smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Because where we're going, things always go sideways. Heck. At 2200, they loaded into the helos and lifted into the night. Harper sat between two operators, her rifle across her lap, her med kit at her feet. The rotors churned the air into a violent rhythm. No one spoke. The compound appeared below, a cluster of buildings surrounded by walls lit by a single generator. The helos came in fast and low, flared hard, and dumped them onto the ground. Harper hit the dirt running. Alpha Team moved like shadows, stacking up on the first building. Pike gave the signal. The door blew inward. They poured inside. Gunfire erupted immediately. Muzzle flashes lit up the dark. Harper pressed herself against the wall, rifle up, scanning for threats. An enemy fighter appeared in a doorway. She fired twice. He dropped. Clear, someone shouted. They moved deeper into the compound, room after room, controlled chaos. Harper's training took over. Shoot, move, communicate. She wasn't thinking anymore. She was just doing. Then the building shook. A secondary explosion, massive, deafening. The ceiling cracked. Dust rained down. Harper stumbled, caught herself, kept moving. Alpha Team, collapse back, Pike's voice over the radio. Building's coming down. They ran. Harper was halfway to the exit when she heard it. A voice, faint and desperate. Help, someone, help! She stopped, turned, saw two figures trapped under a collapsed beam in the next room. Marines. Her Marines. Pike grabbed her arm. Doc, we gotta go. There's people in there. The building's gonna collapse. Harper pulled free. Then help me get them out. She didn't wait for an answer. She ran back into the room, dropped to her knees beside the trapped Marines. One was unconscious, bleeding from the head. The other was awake, gasping, crushed from the waist down. I got you, Harper said. I got you. Pike appeared beside her, rifle slung, hands already working the beam. On 3. 1, 2. They lifted. The beam moved. The conscious Marine screamed. Harper grabbed him under the shoulders and pulled him free, then went back for the other one. Gunfire crackled outside. Shouts, radio chatter. The building groaned. Doc, we're out of time, Pike yelled. Harper got the second Marine clear and started an IV. I need 30 seconds. We don't have 30 seconds. She worked faster. Tourniquet. Pressure dressing. Airway check. The Marine was still breathing. That was enough. Now, she shouted. They dragged both casualties toward the exit. The ceiling split open above them. Concrete rained down. Harper felt something slam into her back, hard enough to knock the breath out of her lungs. But she didn't let go. They made it outside just as the building collapsed behind them. The shock wave threw them forward into the dirt. Harper rolled, came up gasping, checked the casualties. Both still alive. Pike stared at her, covered in dust, chest heaving. "You're insane, Doc." Harper coughed, spat blood. "I'm a medic." "Yeah." Pike grinned. "Best damn medic I've ever seen." The medevac came in hot. They loaded the casualties. Harper stayed with them, counting vitals, adjusting IVs, refusing to stop until the bird was in the air. When she finally climbed out, the compound was a smoking ruin. The rest of the team was already exfilling. Pike walked over, handed her a canteen. "You did good tonight," he said. Harper drank, then looked at the rifle still strapped across her chest. "I broke my promise again." "What promise?" "To never carry a rifle." Pike was quiet for a moment. "Promises like that? They're made in safety. Out here, safety's a luxury. You did what you had to do. Doesn't make it easier." "No," Pike agreed, "but it makes you dangerous. And out here, dangerous keeps people alive." Harper didn't answer. She just stood there, watching the smoke rise into the night sky, wondering how many more promises she'd have to break before this war was over. The helo ride back to the FOB was silent. Harper sat with her head against the bulkhead, eyes closed, replaying every second. The firefight, the explosion, the two Marines she'd pulled from the rubble, the promise she'd broken, again. When they landed, Pike pulled her aside. "Major Kincaid wants to see you," he said. Harper's stomach sank. "Now?" "Now." She followed Pike to the TOC. Kincaid was waiting, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Sloan, sit." Harper sat. Kincaid pulled up a video feed on the monitor. Grainy, black and white, helmet cam footage from the raid. Harper watched herself move through the building, engage targets, pull the Marines free. It looked surreal, like watching someone else. "You engaged 4 hostiles tonight," Kincaid said. "All confirmed kills. You also saved 2 Marines who would have died in that collapse." "Yes, sir." "Do you understand what that makes you?" Harper hesitated. "A corpsman, sir." "No." Kincaid leaned forward. "It makes you a weapon, a very rare, very valuable weapon, and I intend to use you." Harper's pulse quickened. "Sir, You're being reassigned again," Kincaid said. "Effective immediately. You'll be working with a joint task force on high-priority targets. Specialized training, classified operations." "I just want to be a medic, sir." "And you will be, but you'll also be more." Kincaid's expression softened slightly. "I know you didn't ask for this, Sloan, but war doesn't care what you asked for. It only cares what you can do. And you can do a lot." Harper looked down at her hands. They were still shaking. "What if I say no?" "Then you go back to 2nd Platoon and watch good Marines die because you weren't there to save them." Kincaid stood. "Think about it. You've got 24 hours. Harper left the TOC in a daze. The base was quiet now, most of the lights out. She walked to the medical hooch, sat on her bunk, and stared at the rifle leaning against the wall. Her phone buzzed. Another message from her mother. "I love you, sweetheart. Praying for you every day." Harper typed a response, then deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally, she just wrote, "Love you too, Mom." She set the phone down and lay back on the bunk, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Her mind wouldn't stop. Somewhere in the distance, a helicopter lifted off. The sound faded into the night. And Harper Sloan, the medic who promised she'd never carry a rifle, closed her eyes and wondered who she was becoming. 24 hours turned into 12. Then 6. Then Harper stopped counting. She didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the muzzle flashes, felt the rifle kick against her shoulder, heard the bodies hit the ground. She'd killed 6 people in 3 days. 6. The number sat in her chest like a stone. At 05:30, she gave up on sleep and headed to the showers. The water was cold, the pressure weak, But she stood under it anyway, letting it wash away the dust and sweat. Not the memories. Those stayed. When she emerged, Pike was waiting outside, leaning against the wall with 2 cups of coffee. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked, offering her one. Harper took it. "No." "Kincaid's waiting for your answer." "I know." Pike studied her over the rim of his cup. "You gonna say yes? Does it matter?" "Yeah, it does." He paused. "Look, I've seen a lot of medics come through here, good ones, brave ones, but I've never seen anyone do what you did last night. You didn't hesitate, you didn't panic, you just moved." Harper stared into her coffee. "I broke a promise." "To who?" "My mother. I told her I'd never carry a rifle, that I'd only save lives." Pike was quiet for a moment. "You did save lives, 2 of them. The rifle was just the tool you used." "It's not that simple." "War never is." Pike drained his cup and tossed it into a bin. "But here's the thing, Doc. You can run from what you're good at, or you can own it. Either way, people are going to keep dying. The only question is whether you're there to stop it." He walked away before Harper could respond. She stood there in the cold morning air, watching the sun bleed orange over the horizon, and made her decision. Major Kincaid's office was a converted shipping container with a desk, 2 chairs, and a map of the region pinned to the wall. Harper knocked once and entered. "Sloan, you've decided?" Harper set her coffee down on the desk. "I'm in." Kincaid nodded slowly. "Good. Briefing starts in 30 minutes. You'll meet the rest of the team." "What team?" "Task Force Sable. Joint Operations, SEALs, Marine Raiders, Delta, and Specialized Support Personnel. Your role is primary medical, secondary precision engagement." Harper's stomach tightened. "Secondary what?" "You heard me." Kincaid leaned back in his chair. "We've reviewed your file, your shooting record, the firefights. You're not just a medic anymore, Sloan. You're a hybrid, and that makes you invaluable." "I didn't ask for this." "No one does." Kincaid's expression hardened. "But you're here now, and the mission doesn't care what you asked for." The briefing room was packed. 12 operators, all of them bigger, older, harder. They turned when Harper entered, and she felt the weight of their assessment. The same look she'd gotten 100 times before. The doubt. The skepticism. She took a seat in the back and kept her face neutral. Kincaid stood at the front, flanked by Pike and another SEAL Harper didn't recognize. "Listen up. We've got a high-value target in Qasrin. Hassan al-Rifai, bomb maker responsible for at least 30 coalition casualties in the last 6 months. Intel says he's holed up in a fortified compound with a dozen fighters and enough ordnance to level a city block." A map appeared on the screen, satellite imagery, overlaid with grids and waypoints. "This is a direct action raid," Kincaid continued. "We go in at 0200, neutralize the target, secure the site, and exfil before dawn. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Any questions?" A hand went up. Staff Sergeant Driscoll, a raider with a reputation for asking the wrong questions at the right time. "What's the corpsman situation?" Kincaid glanced at Harper. "Corpsman Sloan will be attached to Alpha Team." Driscoll frowned. "The one who just transferred in?" "That's right." "No offense, sir, but we're hitting a hardened target. We need someone who can keep up." Harper felt the room shift, eyes on her, waiting. Kincaid's voice didn't change. "Corpsman Sloan pulled 2 Marines out of a collapsing building under fire 3 days ago. She's qualified." "Qualified to patch wounds, maybe," Driscoll said. "But can she shoot?" Pike stepped forward. "She dropped 4 hostiles in close quarters during the same op. Clean kills. No hesitation." Driscoll looked at Harper directly for the first time. "That true, Doc?" Harper met his eyes. "Yes." "Then why are you a medic and not a shooter?" "Because I chose to be." "War doesn't care what you choose." "I know," Harper said evenly. "That's why I'm here." The room went quiet. Driscoll held her gaze for another beat, then nodded. "Fair enough." Kincaid cleared his throat. "Any other questions?" Silence. "Good. Wheels up at 2100. Get your gear squared away." Well, Harper spent the next 12 hours prepping. She checked her medkit 3 times, ran through trauma scenarios in her head, cleaned her rifle until it gleamed. The other operators kept their distance, watching her with cautious curiosity. She didn't try to make friends. She just worked. At 1900, Pike found her in the armory, field stripping her rifle for the 4th time. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah." "You don't look good." Harper reassembled the rifle without looking up. "I'm fine." Pike sat down across from her. "You know what the difference is between a good operator and a dead one?" "What?" "The good ones know when to trust themselves." He paused. "You've got the skills, Doc. I've seen it. But if you second-guess yourself out there, people die. You get me?" Harper slid the bolt carrier into place with a metallic click. "I get you." "Do you?" She looked up. "I know what's at stake, Senior Chief. I know what happens if I freeze. I'm not going to freeze." Pike studied her for a long moment. "All right, just making sure." He stood to leave, then stopped. "One more thing. Driscoll's an asshole, but he's a good operator. Don't take it personal." "I don't." "Good." Pike tapped the door frame twice and walked out. Harper sat alone in the armory, running her fingers over the rifle stock, feeling the grain of the wood. She thought about her mother again. The promise. The guilt. The weight of every choice that had led her here. Then she pushed it all down, locked it away, and focused on the mission. The helos came in low over the desert, rotors slicing the night into shreds of sound. Harper sat between Driscoll and another raider named Vasquez, her rifle across her lap, her med kit strapped tight to her back. No one spoke. The tension was a living thing, coiled and waiting. The compound appeared below, walls, guard towers, lights. The helos flared hard and dropped them into the dirt 50 meters out. Harper hit the ground running, staying tight with Alpha Team as they moved toward the breach point. Driscoll raised a fist. Everyone stopped. He signaled. 2 guards, North Tower. Pike took them both with suppressed shots, clean and quiet. The guards dropped without a sound. They stacked up on the main gate. Breacher set the charge. 3 seconds. 2. 1. The gate blew inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Alpha Team poured through. The courtyard erupted. Muzzle flashes lit up the dark like strobe lights. Harper moved with the team, rifle up, scanning sectors. A fighter appeared on a rooftop. She fired twice. He fell. "Moving!" Driscoll shouted. They crossed the courtyard in a wedge, clearing angles, suppressing threats. Harper's training took over. Breathe, aim, fire, move. No thought, just action. They hit the main building hard. Door kicked in, flashbang through the opening. The interior lit up white. Alpha Team flooded inside. The first room was clear. The second held 3 fighters. Harper dropped one before he could raise his weapon. Driscoll and Vasquez took the others. "Clear!" They moved deeper. Hallway, staircase, another door. Pike kicked it open and gunfire ripped through the frame. He jerked back, swearing. "Contact! Multiple hostiles! 2nd floor!" Harper pressed herself against the wall as rounds chewed through the plaster. Driscoll threw a grenade up the stairs. The explosion shook the building. They pushed through the smoke. The 2nd floor was chaos, fighters behind cover, firing wild. Harper sighted on a muzzle flash and squeezed the trigger. The flash stopped. She moved to the next target. "Frag out!" Vasquez hurled another grenade. The blast cleared the room. They swept through, stepping over bodies, checking corners. Harper's pulse was steady, her breathing controlled. She wasn't scared, she was focused. Then she heard it. A voice, faint and desperate, coming from the next room. "Help! Please!" Harper stopped. "Hold up, someone's in there." Driscoll shook his head. "Could be a trap. Or it could be a civilian." "We're not here for civilians, Doc." Harper ignored him and moved toward the door. Pike grabbed her arm. "Wait." She pulled free. "I'm a medic. If someone needs help." "Then we clear the room first." Pike nodded to Driscoll. "Stack up." They breached fast and hard. The room was empty except for a figure slumped in the corner. A woman, barely conscious, covered in blood. Harper dropped to her knees beside her. "I've got you. You're safe now." The woman's eyes fluttered open. She said something in Arabic, too quiet to hear. "What's she saying?" Harper asked. Vasquez listened, then his face went pale. "She says it's a trap." The explosion hit before Harper could process the words. The floor erupted beneath them, fire and shrapnel tearing through the room. Harper felt herself lifted, thrown, slammed into the wall. Her ears screamed, her vision blurred. Then everything went dark. Oh. She woke to pain, sharp, insistent, everywhere. Her head throbbed. Her ribs burned. She couldn't feel her left leg. Harper blinked, trying to focus. The room was destroyed. Half the floor collapsed into the level below. Smoke choked the air. She could hear voices, American voices, shouting somewhere close. "Doc! Doc! You alive?" Pike. Harper tried to answer, but her throat was raw. She coughed instead, tasted blood. "Over here!" Pike appeared through the smoke, face streaked with soot. "Jesus, Doc, you're a mess." Harper tried to sit up. Pain shot through her side. The others? Driscoll's banged up but mobile. Vasquez took shrapnel. The woman's dead. Pike crouched beside her, assessing injuries. "You've got a piece of rebar through your calf. Can't move you until we pull it." Harper looked down. The rebar was buried deep, blood pooling around it. "Do it." "This is going to hurt." "I know." Pike gripped the rebar. "On 3. 1. He pulled on 1. Harper screamed, bit down hard, felt the world tilt. Then the rebar was out, and Pike was packing the wound with gauze. "Can you walk?" he asked. Harper tested the leg. It held, barely. "Yeah." "Good. Because we need to move. Building's not stable." They helped each other up. Driscoll appeared through the smoke, supporting Vasquez. The raider's face was gray, his shoulders soaked with blood. "How bad?" Harper asked. "Bad enough," Vasquez grunted. Harper moved to him, ignoring her own pain. She cut away his sleeve, exposing the wound, shrapnel buried in the muscle, arterial bleeding. She worked fast, tourniquet, pressure dressing, morphine. "You're going to make it," she told him. Vasquez managed a weak smile. "You too, Doc." The building groaned. Concrete cracked overhead. Pike grabbed Harper's arm. "We're out of time. Move." They ran, limping, bleeding, dragging each other through the smoke and debris. The stairs were half collapsed, the walls leaning inward. Harper's legs screamed with every step, but she didn't stop. They made it to the ground floor just as the ceiling came down behind them. The crash was deafening. Dust billowed through the hallway. "Keep moving," Driscoll shouted. They burst into the courtyard. The firefight was still raging, Bravo team pinned down near the west wall, taking heavy fire from a machine gun nest on the roof. Pike keyed his radio. "Bravo, this is Alpha. We're coming to you. Suppressing fire on my mark." "Roger that." Pike looked at Harper. "You good to shoot?" Harper checked her rifle, still functional. "Yeah." "Then let's work." They moved as a unit, Pike and Driscoll laying down suppressive fire, while Harper sighted on the machine gun nest. She could see the gunner's silhouette, backlit by muzzle flash. She steadied her breathing, found the shot, squeezed. The gunner dropped. The machine gun went silent. "Nice shot, Doc," Driscoll yelled. They linked up with Bravo team and collapsed into defensive positions. The firefight raged for another 10 minutes before the enemy broke and scattered. Then silence, thick and ringing. Harper slumped against the wall, chest heaving. Her leg was bleeding through the bandage. Her head felt like it was splitting open, but she was alive. Pike sat down beside her, equally battered. "Hell of a night." Harper laughed, a raw, painful sound. "Yeah. You did good, Doc. Real good." "Thanks." He looked at her leg. "We need to get you to a medevac." "Vasquez first. He's worse." "Doc." "Vasquez first," Harper repeated. "That's the job." Pike shook his head, but he was smiling. "You're stubborn as hell, you know that?" "So I've been told." The medevac came in 20 minutes later. They loaded Vasquez first, then 2 other casualties from Bravo team. Harper stayed on the ground, treating minor wounds, refusing to leave until everyone else was stable. When the last casualty was loaded, Pike physically picked her up and carried her to the bird. "Put me down," Harper protested. "No." "Pike, you've done enough, Doc. Let someone else take care of you for once." Harper was too tired to argue. She let him strap her into the seat, let the flight medic take over. As the helo lifted into the night, she closed her eyes and felt the adrenaline finally start to drain away. The field hospital was chaos. Bright lights, shouting medics, the smell of antiseptic and blood. Harper was wheeled into a treatment bay and immediately surrounded by doctors. "Corpsman Sloan, right?" one of them asked. "Yeah. Heard about you. You're the one who pulled 2 Marines out of a collapsing building. And shot 4 hostiles," another doctor added. "And just took down a machine gun nest with a through-and-through leg wound." Harper closed her eyes. "Can we just fix the leg?" They worked on her for 2 hours, cleaned the wound, removed shrapnel, stitched her up. The surgeon said she was lucky. Another inch to the left, and the rebar would have hit the artery. She would have bled out in minutes. Lucky. Right. When they finished, they moved her to a recovery ward, a tent with 20 beds, half of them occupied. Harper lay back and stared at the canvas ceiling, listening to the quiet sounds of pain around her. A nurse appeared with a phone. "Someone wants to talk to you." Harper frowned. "Who?" "Didn't say. Just that it's important." Harper took the phone. "Hello? Corpsman Sloan?" A woman's voice, official and crisp. "This is Captain Miranda Cross, Naval Special Warfare Command. I'm calling regarding your recent operations with Task Force Sable." Harper's stomach sank. "Yes, ma'am." "Your performance has been exceptional. Major Kincaid has recommended you for a specialized training program. We're building a new unit, hybrid operators who can function as both elite medics and precision shooters." "Ma'am, I'm just a corpsman." "You're more than that, Sloan, and we both know it." Cross paused. "This program is voluntary, but if you accept, you'll be trained by the best. SEAL medics, Ranger medics, Delta Force medical sergeants. You'll learn advanced trauma care, long-range marksmanship, close-quarters combat, everything you need to be the kind of asset we desperately need." Harper's mind raced. When would this start? "As soon as you're cleared for duty. 2 weeks, maybe 3. And if I say no, then you go back to a standard corpsman billet. No hard feelings." Cross's tone softened slightly. "But I've read your file, Sloan. I know about the promise you made to your mother. I know what this costs you, but I also know what you're capable of. And right now, we need people who are capable." Harper closed her eyes. She could see her mother's face, hear her voice. "Promise me you'll only save lives." "Can I think about it?" Harper asked. "You've got 48 hours. After that, the slot goes to someone else." The line went dead. Harper handed the phone back to the nurse and lay there, staring at the ceiling again. 2 weeks later, she was back in the fight. The new assignment came with new gear, an upgraded med kit, a custom rifle, and a call sign, Mercy. The irony wasn't lost on Harper. She reported to a classified compound outside Kandahar where the rest of the hybrid team was training. 6 operators total, all of them cross-trained in medical and combat skills. The training was brutal. 18-hour days, live fire exercises, trauma scenarios with simulated casualties screaming in pain. Harper pushed through it all. She learned to shoot while treating wounds, to move under fire while calling in medevac, to make impossible choices in seconds. The instructors were merciless, the scenarios unforgiving. But she didn't break. On the 15th day, they ran a final exercise, a simulated hostage rescue with 3 casualties, limited supplies, and enemy contact. Harper's team had 10 minutes to extract everyone alive. They failed. One of the casualties died because Harper chose to treat the more critical patient first. The instructor, a grizzled SEAL named Chief Ramos, stopped the exercise and pulled Harper aside. "You made the wrong call, Mercy." Harper's jaw tightened. "I triaged. The other casualty had a better chance. The other casualty was stable. This one needed immediate intervention. I couldn't save both. So you chose." Ramos stepped closer. "That's the job, Mercy. Every day, you're going to have to choose who lives, who dies. And you can't hesitate. You understand?" Harper met his eyes. "I understand." "Do you?" Ramos crossed his arms. "Because hesitation out there doesn't just kill the patient. It kills you. It kills your team. So you need to ask yourself, are you ready to make those calls?" Harper thought about the Marines in the collapsed building, the fighters she'd shot, the promise she'd broken over and over again. "Yes," she said quietly. "I'm ready." Ramos studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Good. because tomorrow you're going operational. The next mission was supposed to be simple. Support a SEAL team on a direct action raid targeting a weapons cache outside Darun. In and out, no complications. Harper should have known better. They hit the compound at midnight, fast, silent, professional. The cache was in a secondary building, guarded by a handful of fighters who went down without a fight. Easy, too easy. Harper was in the building cataloging the weapons when the radio crackled. "Alpha, this is Overwatch. We've got movement. Multiple hostiles 200 meters north and closing." The SEAL team leader, a lieutenant named Garrett, keyed his mic. "Roger, collapse to primary structure. Prep for exfil." They moved fast, falling back to the main building. Harper grabbed her medkit and followed. That's when she heard it, a sound that made her blood freeze. Crying, a child's voice coming from somewhere inside the building. "Hold up," Harper said. "There's someone in there." Garrett shook his head. "Negative. Probably a radio or recording. Classic bait." "That's not a recording." "Doc, we don't have time." Harper was already moving. She pushed past Garrett and into the building, rifle up, following the sound. The crying led her to a back room, small, dark, smelling of smoke and fear. A girl, maybe 6 years old, huddled in the corner, alone, terrified. Harper lowered her rifle. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl stared at her with wide, dark eyes. Harper held out a hand. "Come on, we need to go." The girl didn't move. "Mercy, we're out of time," Garrett's voice over the radio. "Hostiles inbound, 90 seconds. Harper looked at the girl, then at the door. She could leave. The smart move. The safe move. Instead, she scooped the girl up and ran. She made it back to the team just as the first enemy fighters hit the perimeter. Gunfire erupted. Harper shoved the girl behind cover and brought her rifle up, firing controlled bursts at the advancing hostiles. "Where the hell did that kid come from?" Garrett shouted. "Does it matter?" Harper fired again. "We need to move." They fought their way to the exfil point, laying down suppressive fire, dragging the girl with them. The firefight was intense, close, chaotic, ugly. Harper took her round to her plate carrier that knocked the wind out of her but kept moving. The exfil helo came in hot, door guns blazing. They loaded up, Harper still holding the girl, and lifted into the night. As the compound shrank below them, Garrett turned to Harper. "That was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen." Harper looked down at the girl, who was clinging to her vest, still crying. "She would have died. So could you." "But I didn't." Garrett shook his head, but he was smiling. "You're a piece of work, Mercy." Back at the base, this girl was handed over to humanitarian workers. Harper watched her go, feeling something twist in her chest. The girl looked back once, eyes still wide and scared, and then she was gone. Harper stood there for a long time, staring at nothing. Pike found her an hour later, sitting alone outside the med tent. "You okay?" he asked. Harper shrugged. "Yeah." "That's not what Garrett said. He said you went full hero mode." "I did my job." "Your job isn't saving random kids in the middle of a firefight." Harper looked up at him. "Then what is my job, Senior Chief? Because everyone keeps telling me different things." Pike sat down beside her. "Your job is whatever you decide it is, Doc. But you need to figure that out soon, because this half-in, half-out thing, it's going to get you killed." Harper was quiet for a moment. "I made a promise to my mother. I know. And I keep breaking it. So call her," Pike said simply. "Tell her the truth." Harper shook her head. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because then it's real." Harper's voice cracked slightly. "As long as I don't say it out loud, I can pretend I'm still the person she thinks I am." Pike stood, brushed the dust off his pants. "You're not that person anymore, Doc. Maybe you never were, and the sooner you accept that, the better off you'll be." He walked away, leaving Harper alone with her thoughts. That night, Harper sat on the roof of the barracks with her phone in her hand. Her mother's number was already pulled up. All she had to do was press call. She stared at the screen for 10 minutes, 20, 30. Finally, she put the phone away and stood up. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. But as she climbed down, she made a different decision, one that didn't require her mother's forgiveness. She was done pretending. Tomorrow she'd stop fighting who she was becoming and start owning it. Medic, shooter, hybrid, whatever they wanted to call her. She was Mercy. And Mercy, she was learning, came in many forms. Some of them gentle, some of them final, all of them necessary. The mission brief came down 48 hours later, and it changed everything. Harper sat in the operations center with the rest of Task Force Sable, watching Major Kincaid pull up satellite imagery on the screen. The compound looked familiar, another cluster of buildings in another desert wasteland. But the intel package was different, thicker, more detailed, more dangerous. Hassan al-Rifai, Kincaid said, tapping the screen. We've been hunting this bastard for 8 months. Bomb maker, weapons smuggler, high-value target. Intel says he's in this compound outside Khosran with a security force of 15 to 20 fighters. Driscoll leaned forward. What's the catch? The catch is that he's got hostages. 2 Marines from a patrol that got ambushed 3 days ago. Corporal Jensen and Lance Corporal Murray. Both wounded, both alive, for now. The room went still. Harper felt something cold settle in her chest. This is a rescue op, Kincaid continued. Primary objective is getting our people out. Secondary is neutralizing al-Rifai. We go in hard, we go in fast, and we don't leave anyone behind. Pike raised his hand. What's the medical situation with the hostages? Unknown. Last intel suggests at least one has a leg wound, possibly infected. The other took shrapnel to the torso. They need immediate evac. Pike glanced at Harper. Mercy's our primary medical? Affirmative. She'll be attached to Alpha Team, first through the door. Driscoll frowned. First through the door is the hottest position, sir. We're putting a corpsman in the kill zone? I'm putting our best hybrid operator in the kill zone, Kincaid corrected. And that's Mercy. Harper felt every eye in the room turn toward her. She kept her face neutral, her voice steady. I'm good, sir. Kincaid nodded. Wheels up at 2200. Get your gear ready. This one's going to be ugly. Some. Harper spent the afternoon in the armory, prepping her kit with the kind of obsessive precision that came from knowing people's lives depended on it. Every bandage, every tourniquet, every dose of morphine had to be exactly where she could reach it in the dark. She checked her rifle 3 times, her sidearm twice, her med supplies 4 times. Pike found her there, methodically loading magazines. You ready for this? He asked. Harper didn't look up. Yeah. You sure? Because this isn't like the other ops. Hostages change everything. The pressure's going to be intense. I know. Pike sat down across from her. Listen, Doc, I've seen you work. You're good, better than good, but this is different. You're going to have to make calls out there, fast calls, hard calls. And if you hesitate, I won't, Harper said, finally meeting his eyes. I'm done hesitating. Pike studied her for a moment. What changed? Everything. Harper slid a magazine into her vest. I spent the last 3 weeks trying to be 2 different people. The medic my mother wanted, the operator everyone needs, but I can't be both halfway. So I'm choosing to be all of it. Even if that means killing? Even if that means killing. Harper's voice was flat, final. Because if I don't, good people die, and I'm not letting that happen anymore. Pike nodded slowly. All right then. Let's go save some Marines. The helos came in low and fast, using the terrain to mask their approach. Harper sat in the back of the lead bird, wedged between Driscoll and a SEAL sniper named Cruz. The cabin was dark, lit only by the faint glow of instrument panels. No one spoke. The tension was thick enough to taste. Through the open door, Harper could see the desert rushing past below. Black sand, scattered rocks, the occasional cluster of buildings. The moon was a sliver, offering just enough light to navigate by. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. 2 minutes. Harper checked her gear one last time. Rifle loaded, safety off. Medkit secured. Sidearm accessible. She ran through the plan in her head. Breach the compound, locate the hostages, stabilize and extract. Simple on paper. Hell in practice. 1 minute. The helo banked hard, dropping altitude. Harper's stomach lurched. She gripped her rifle tighter. 30 seconds. Get ready. The compound appeared below. Walls, buildings, guard towers. Harper could see figures moving in the courtyard. Enemy fighters, armed and alert. Go, go, go! The helo flared hard, wheels kissing the dirt. Alpha Team poured out, boots hitting ground, weapons up. Harper was fourth out, staying tight with the stack as they moved toward the breach point. Driscoll hit the wall first, setting the charge. Breaching! The explosion ripped the gate off its hinges. Alpha Team flooded through. The courtyard was chaos instantly. Muzzle flashes erupted from 3 positions: rooftop, second-floor window, ground-level bunker. Rounds snapped through the air. Harper dropped to one knee, acquired the rooftop target, fired twice. The muzzle flash stopped. "Moving!" Pike shouted. They crossed the courtyard in a wedge, suppressing threats, clearing angles. Cruz took out the bunker with a perfect headshot. Driscoll grenaded the window. The building shook. Harper stayed focused, scanning for threats, moving with the team. Her pulse was steady, her breathing controlled. This was what she'd trained for. They hit the main building hard. The door was reinforced steel. Driscoll set a breaching charge while the rest of the team stacked up. "Mercy, you're third in," Pike said. "Hostages are likely in the back room. You find them, you lock them down. We'll clear the rest." Harper nodded. "Roger." The charge blew. The door folded inward, flash bang through the gap. Blinding light, concussive force. Alpha Team poured inside. The first room held 2 fighters. Pike and Driscoll dropped them before they could react. The second room was empty. The third held a staircase leading down. "Basement," Pike said. "That's where they'll be." They descended fast, weapons sweeping the darkness. The basement was a narrow corridor lined with doors, some open, some locked. Harper could smell blood and infection and fear. "Clear left," Cruz called. "Clear right," Driscoll echoed. Pike tried a locked door at the end of the hall. "Mercy, on me. This one's sealed." Harper moved up. Pike set a small charge on the lock. "Back up." The charge popped. The lock shattered. Pike kicked the door open. Inside, 2 Marines were chained to the wall, bloodied and barely conscious. Jensen and Murray. Alive, but barely. Harper was through the door before Pike could clear the room. She dropped to her knees beside Jensen, assessing injuries. Leg wound, badly infected, fever burning through him. Murray was worse, shrapnel wounds across his torso, breathing shallow, lips blue. "I need light," Harper barked. Cruz swept a flashlight across the room. Harper worked fast, cutting away Jensen's shredded pant leg, exposing the infected wound. It was bad. Necrotic tissue, pus, the sharp smell of gangrene. "How long?" Pike asked. "Jensen needs a surgeon yesterday. Murray needs a chest tube now, or he's not making it to the bird." Harper pulled out her kit, hands moving automatically. "I need 3 minutes." "You've got 2. Harper ignored him. She inserted the chest tube into Murray's pleural cavity, felt the release of pressure, heard his breathing ease. She hooked up an IV, pushed fluids, taped everything secure. Jensen was next. She couldn't fix the infection here, but she could buy him time. Broad-spectrum antibiotics, IV fluids, pain management. She worked with the kind of focused intensity that shut out everything else. The gunfire upstairs, the shouting, the clock ticking down. "Done," she said finally. "We can move them." Pike keyed his radio. "Alpha actual to Overwatch. We have the package. 2 casualties, need immediate medevac." The response was immediate. "Negative Alpha, LZ is hot, enemy QRF inbound, 6 vehicles, ETA 4 minutes. You need to hold position." Pike swore. "Roger that. We're going defensive." Driscoll looked at Harper. "Can they be moved?" "They have to be," Harper said. "They won't survive another hour down here." "Then we move." Pike turned to Cruz. "Get upstairs. Find us a defensible position. Driscoll, help Mercy with the casualties. We're getting out of this basement before it becomes a tomb." They hauled the Marines up the stairs, Harper supporting Murray while Driscoll carried Jensen. Every step was agony for the wounded men, but neither made a sound. Marines didn't quit. They reached the ground floor just as the enemy QRF arrived. The building shook with incoming fire, rifle rounds, RPGs, something bigger. The walls started to disintegrate. "Fall back to the secondary structure," Pike shouted. "Leapfrog movement, covering fire." Alpha Team moved as one, half providing suppressive fire while the other half displaced, then reversing. Harper dragged Murray across the courtyard, ignoring the rounds cracking past her head. Driscoll was right behind her with Jensen. They made it to the secondary building. Smaller, more exposed, but it had cover and sight lines. Pike positioned the team at the windows, setting up interlocking fields of fire. "Mercy, get the casualties stabilized," he ordered. "Everyone else, make every round count. We're going to be here a while." Harper set up in the back corner, using rubble to shield the wounded. She reassessed Murray's chest tube, still functioning. She checked Jensen's vitals, weak but stable. Both men were conscious now, watching her work with glassy eyes. "We're going to get you out," Harper told them. "Just stay with me." Jensen managed a weak nod. "Knew someone would come." "Yeah. Well, you owe me a beer when we get back." He almost smiled. "Deal." Outside, the firefight intensified. The enemy was pressing hard, using vehicles for cover, trying to flank. Alpha Team held them back with disciplined fire, but ammunition was finite. Pike moved to Harper's position. "How are they?" "Stable, but they need a hospital, not a battlefield." "Working on it." He keyed his radio. "Overwatch. This is Alpha Actual. We're pinned down, casualties critical. Where's our air support?" "Alpha Overwatch. Fast movers inbound. 2 minutes. Mark your position." Pike grabbed an IR strobe and set it on the roof. "Marked. Tell them to light up everything outside this building." "Roger. Stand by for danger close." Harper knew what that meant. She covered the casualties with her own body, pressing them into the corner. "Everyone get down!" The jets came in low and screaming. The world turned to thunder and fire. Harper felt the building shake, heard the explosions ripple across the compound. Shrapnel pinged off the walls, dust rained from the ceiling, then silence. Pike stood, checked the courtyard through a shattered window. "Enemies broken. They're retreating." 30 seconds later, the radio crackled. "Alpha, Overwatch. LZ is clear. Medevac inbound. 90 seconds. "Roger that." Pike turned to the team. "Get ready to move. Mercy, how fast can you prep them for transport?" "They're ready now." The medevac came in fast, rotors chopping the smoke-filled air. Alpha Team moved the casualties to the bird under covering fire. Harper stayed with them, calling out vitals to the flight medic, making sure the handoff was clean. As the helo lifted, Jensen grabbed Harper's wrist. "Thank you," he said, voice barely audible over the rotors. Harper squeezed his hand. "Just doing my job, Marine." The helo banked and disappeared into the night. Harper stood there for a moment, watching it go, feeling something release in her chest. They'd made it, both of them, against all odds. Pike appeared beside her. "Hell of a job, Doc." Harper turned. "We still have a secondary objective." "Al-Rifai?" Pike shook his head. "He's in the wind. Slipped out during the firefight." "Then we track him." "Negative. We're extracting. Mission's over." "Not for me." Harper's voice was hard. "That bastard put 2 Marines through hell. I'm not letting him walk." Pike grabbed her arm. "Doc, stand down. We're not cleared for pursuit." Harper pulled free. "I don't need clearance." She was moving before Pike could stop her, rifle up, heading toward the main building. She could hear Pike shouting behind her, but she didn't care. Al-Rifai was in there somewhere. She could feel it. The building was a wreck, smoke, rubble, bodies. Harper moved through it fast, clearing rooms, following her instincts. She found a staircase leading to a sub-basement, fresh boot prints in the dust. She descended. The sub-basement was a warren of storage rooms and tunnels. Harper moved carefully, rifle leading, senses hyper-alert. She could hear breathing somewhere ahead, ragged, panicked. She turned a corner and saw him, Hassan al-Rifai, crouched behind a stack of crates, clutching a pistol with shaking hands. "Drop it," Harper said, her voice flat and cold. Al-Rifai looked up, his eyes widened. You're just a girl." "Drop the weapon." "They send a child to kill me?" He laughed, bitter and broken. "America must be desperate." Harper's finger rested lightly on the trigger. "Last chance." Al-Rifai raised the pistol. Not fast, not smooth, just desperate. Harper fired once. The round caught him center mass. He dropped the pistol, stumbled backward, collapsed against the wall. Blood spread across his chest. Harper approached, weapon still up. "Where are the other hostages?" Al-Rifai coughed blood. "What? Hostages?" The intel said there were more. Intel is wrong. He smiled, showing red teeth. There were only the two. Harper lowered her rifle slightly. Why keep them alive? Leverage, bargaining. His breathing was getting shallow. Didn't matter. In the end, no, Harper said quietly. It didn't. She watched him die. Didn't feel triumph. Didn't feel guilt. Just a cold, clinical acceptance of what needed to be done. Footsteps behind her. Pike appeared, weapon raised, then lowered when he saw the scene. Jesus, Doc, what did you do? Finished the mission. Harper turned to face him. Secondary objective complete. Pike looked at Al-Rafai's body, then at Harper. You just went rogue. I went effective. That's not how this works. It's how it works now. Harper's voice was hard. You said I needed to stop being half in, half out. So I'm all in. Medic when they need saving. Shooter when they need killing. No hesitation, no apologies. Pike stared at her for a long moment. You're going to get yourself court-martialed. Maybe. But Jensen and Murray are alive. And Al-Rafai's dead. That's what matters. Pike shook his head slowly. You've changed, Doc. I know. Harper shouldered her rifle. Let's get out of here. The after-action debrief was brutal. Major Kincaid spent 30 minutes chewing Harper out for breaking protocol, going rogue, and executing a high-value target without authorization. She took it in silence, standing at attention, offering no excuses. When Kincaid finally ran out of steam, he leaned back in his chair and studied her. You know I should pull you from the field, he said. Yes, sir. You disobeyed a direct order. Yes, sir. And yet you completed both objectives, saved 2 Marines, and eliminated a major threat. Kincaid drummed his fingers on the desk. Off the record? That was some of the best combat medicine and tactical work I've ever seen. On the record? You're a pain in my ass. Harper allowed herself a small smile. Understood, sir. Get out of here. And Sloan? Sir? Next time you go rogue, at least have the courtesy to bring back proof of kill. Command's gonna want verification on Al-Rafai. I took a photo, sir. Kincaid blinked. You what? Took a photo. Documented the scene, checked for intel, then X-filed. Harper pulled out a small camera and set it on the desk. Everything's on there. Kincaid stared at the camera, then at Harper. You're either the most professional operator I've ever met, or the craziest. Maybe both, sir. Dismissed. Harper left the TOC and walked into the desert night. The base was quiet, most personnel already asleep. She found herself on the roof of the barracks again, staring at the stars. Her phone buzzed. A message from Pike. You good? She typed back, yeah. Another message. That was insane. Also impressive. Also, don't do it again. Harper smiled. No promises. She put the phone away and pulled out another one. Her personal phone. The one with her mother's number. She'd been avoiding this call for weeks, maybe months. But Pike was right. She couldn't keep pretending. She pressed call. It rang 3 times before her mother answered. Harper? Sweetheart, is that you? Hey, Mom. Oh, thank goodness. I've been so worried. Are you safe? Harper looked down at her hands. They were steady. No shaking. No doubt. Yeah, Mom, I'm safe. You sound different. Tired. I am tired. Harper paused, choosing her words carefully. Mom, I need to tell you something. What is it? The promise I made, about never carrying a rifle. I broke it. Silence on the other end. Then, oh, Harper. I know what I said. I know what I promised. But people were dying, Mom. And I was the only one who could stop it. But you're a medic. I'm more than that now. Harper's voice was steady. I'm a medic who can fight, who can save lives and take them when I have to. I know that's not what you wanted for me, but it's who I need to be out here. More silence. Harper could hear her mother breathing, could imagine the expression on her face. Are you safe? Her mother asked finally. As safe as I can be. Are you good at it? Harper thought about Jensen and Murray, alive because she'd pulled them out. Thought about Al-Rifai, dead because she'd pulled the trigger. Yeah, Mom, I'm good at it. Then I suppose that has to be enough. Her mother's voice cracked slightly. I just wanted you to come home safe. I will, I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep, sweetheart. Harper smiled despite herself. Fair enough. They talked for another 10 minutes. Small things, safe things, the normal rhythm of a mother and daughter trying to bridge an impossible distance. When they finally said goodbye, Harper felt lighter somehow. Not absolved, not forgiven, just honest. She put the phone away and stood up. Tomorrow would bring another mission, another crisis, another impossible choice. But tonight, she was just Harper Sloan, sitting under the stars, finally understanding who she'd become. Medic, warrior, both, neither. Something entirely new, and she was done apologizing for it. The next mission came 2 days later. Another compound, another high-value target, another chance to prove herself. Harper geared up with the same methodical precision, checked her rifle, prepped her medkit. Driscoll found her in the staging area. Heard about what you did with Al-Rifai. Harper didn't look up. And? And I was wrong about you. He extended a hand. You're solid, Mercy. Glad to have you on the team. Harper shook his hand. Thanks. Just try not to go rogue again. Pike's still pissed. Pike's always pissed. Driscoll grinned. Fair point. The mission briefing was straightforward. Hit a weapons cache, secure intel, exfil before dawn, standard direct action raid. Harper listened, memorized the plan, prepared for it to go sideways. It always did. They loaded into the helos at 2100. The flight was smooth, the night clear. Harper sat in silence, running through scenarios in her head. What if there were casualties? What if they encountered resistance? What if... The helo shook violently. Alarm screamed. The pilot's voice cut through the chaos. Taking fire, RPG, 9 o'clock. The aircraft banked hard. Harper grabbed the overhead strap, felt her stomach lurch. Through the open door, she could see tracers arcing through the night. We're going down, the pilot shouted. Brace for impact. The helo hit hard, skidded across the desert, tore itself apart. Harper felt herself thrown, tumbling, slamming into something solid. Pain exploded across her ribs. The world spun. Then everything stopped. Harper lay in the wreckage, ears ringing, vision blurred. She could taste blood, smell fuel, hear screaming. She forced herself to move. Inventory. Ribs cracked, maybe broken. Left arm useless. Head bleeding, but alive. Sound off, Pike's voice, hoarse but commanding. Alpha team, sound off. Driscoll, good. Cruz, mobile. Vasquez, hit but functional. Harper pushed herself up. Mercy, operational. She looked around. The helo was a twisted wreck. Rotors bent, fuselage cracked open. 3 operators were down, 2 moving, 1 still. The pilots were slumped in the cockpit, not moving at all. Harper grabbed her medkit and stumbled toward the casualties. The first operator had a compound fracture. Bone visible, bleeding controlled. She splinted it fast. The second had a head wound, bleeding but conscious. She bandaged and moved on. The third wasn't breathing. Harper dropped to her knees, started CPR. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. She could feel ribs breaking under her hands but didn't stop. 30 more compressions. 2 more breaths. No response. Doc, we gotta move. Pike was beside her, pulling her away. Enemies inbound. We can't stay here. I can save him. He's gone, Doc, and we will be 2 if we don't move. Harper looked down at the dead operator. Another failure. Another life she couldn't save. But there were still 5 alive, and she could save them. All right, she said. Let's move. They grabbed what gear they could carry and disappeared into the desert night, leaving the burning wreckage behind. Enemy vehicles were closing in, headlights cutting through the darkness. Alpha Team moved fast, putting distance between themselves and the crash site. 2 miles out, they found cover in a rocky outcrop. Pike set up a defensive perimeter while Harper triaged the wounded. The compound fracture was stable. The head wound was conscious and lucid. But everyone was hurting. Overwatch, this is Alpha Actual, Pike said into the radio. We're down. Helo destroyed 3 KIA, 5 mobile. Need immediate QRF and medevac. Static. Pike tried again. Overwatch. Do you copy? More static. Radio's fried, he said finally. We're on our own. Driscoll swore. How far to the nearest friendly position? 15 miles, through enemy territory. We'll never make it with casualties. Pike looked at Harper. Doc, what do you think? Harper assessed the wounded operators. They could walk, but not far. Not fast. We need to find shelter, somewhere defensible, wait for rescue. Rescue might not come. Then we make it come. Harper pulled out a signal mirror and a flare. We send up a flare at dawn, someone will see it. Pike nodded. All right. We hunker down, we stay quiet, and we pray nobody finds us first. They spent the night in the rocks, taking turns on watch, treating injuries, conserving supplies. Harper sat with the wounded, monitoring vitals, adjusting bandages, doing everything she could with limited resources. As dawn approached, Pike moved to her position. You did good tonight, Doc. Kept people alive when it mattered. Harper didn't respond. She was staring at the horizon, watching the first hint of light bleed into the sky. What are you thinking? Pike asked. That we're not out of this yet. Harper stood, shouldered her rifle. And that when the sun comes up, things are going to get worse before they get better. Pike smiled grimly. Always the optimist. Just realistic? The sun rose. Harper sent up the flare, and deep in enemy territory, with limited supplies and wounded teammates, she prepared for whatever came next. Because that's what medics did. They kept fighting. They kept saving. They refused to quit, even when the odds were impossible, especially then. The flare arced into the dawn sky, burning bright red against the pale morning light. Harper watched it climb, peak, then fall, trailing smoke. Somewhere out there, friendly forces might see it. Or the enemy would. Either way, they'd just announced their position. How long? Driscoll asked, scanning the horizon through his rifle scope. Pike checked his watch. If anyone saw that QRF, could be here in 30 minutes. Maybe 40. And if the enemy saw it? A lot less than that. Harper moved back to the wounded operators, checking vitals again. The compound fracture was stable but needed surgery soon. The head wound was conscious but showing signs of concussion. Both needed proper medical care, not field expedients in a rocky outcrop. Doc. It was Vasquez, the raider who'd taken shrapnel during the earlier op. He'd been quiet since the crash, sitting with his back against a boulder. You got any water left? Harper handed him her canteen. Small sips? We need to ration. He drank, then handed it back. You think we're making it out of this? Yeah, Harper said without hesitation. We are. You sound pretty sure. I am sure. She met his eyes. Because quitting isn't an option. Vasquez smiled faintly. Hua, Doc. The radio crackled suddenly, weak, distorted, but unmistakably human. Alpha? Overwatch? Copy? Pike grabbed it. Overwatch, this is Alpha Actual. We copy. Weak signal. Static, then. Alpha, position, QRF, 30 minutes, hold. Roger that, Overwatch. We're holding. Pike released the transmit button and looked at the team. Help's coming. We just need to stay alive for 30 minutes. Cruz pointed east. Movement. 3 vehicles, 2 clicks out, and closing. Harper grabbed her rifle and moved to the perimeter. Through the heat shimmer, she could see dust clouds rising, trucks, moving fast, heading straight for them. Enemy? She asked. Cruz adjusted his scope. Looks like it. Technical trucks, armed personnel. At least 15 fighters. Can we hold them for 30 minutes? Driscoll asked. Pike assessed their position. We've got elevation, good cover, limited ammunition. He paused. It's going to be close. They set up defensive positions, spacing themselves across the rocks to create overlapping fields of fire. Harper positioned herself near the wounded, ready to provide medical support or covering fire, whichever came first. The truck stopped at 1,000 meters. Fighters dismounted, spreading out, using the terrain for cover. They weren't rushing in. They were being tactical. Smart. They're going to try to flank us, Pike said. Cruz, you take the right approach. Driscoll, left. Mercy, stay with the casualties and cover our 6. Roger. The first shot came from the enemy position, a ranging round that sparked off the rocks 50 meters short. Then the real shooting started. Harper pressed herself against cover as rounds cracked overhead. She could hear Pike and the others returning fire, controlled bursts, making every round count. The enemy had numbers and ammunition. Alpha Team had training and desperation. 5 minutes in, Cruz called out, "Flanking element, right side. 4 fighters, 200 meters. On it!" Harper swung her rifle right, acquired the lead fighter, fired. He dropped. The others scattered, but she tracked the second one, fired again. Another hit. "Nice shooting, Doc," Cruz shouted. The firefight intensified. The enemy was pressing from 3 sides now, trying to overwhelm them with volume of fire. Alpha Team held them back, but ammunition was running low. "How we doing on ammo?" Pike asked. 2 mags left, Driscoll reported. 1, Cruz said. Harper checked her pouches. 3 mags, but I'm saving 1 for the casualties if we get overrun. Pike's jaw tightened. Let's make sure it doesn't come to that. 10 minutes passed. 15. The enemy kept coming, wave after wave. Harper's rifle was hot, her shoulder bruised from recoil, her hand steady despite the chaos. She'd stopped counting her shots, stopped thinking about anything except the next target, the next threat. Then she heard it, a sound that made her heart soar. Rotors, heavy, powerful, getting closer. "Gunships!" Vasquez shouted. "Incoming friendly!" 2 Apache helicopters screamed over the ridgeline, 30-millimeter cannons blazing. The enemy position erupted in fire and dust. The technical trucks exploded. Fighters scattered and died. The radios came alive. "Alpha Actual, this is Reaper 1-1. We've got you covered. QRF is 2 minutes out." Pike keyed his mic. "Reaper, this is Alpha. Good to see you. We've got wounded. Need immediate medevac." "Roger that, Alpha. Medevac's inbound." The Apaches made another pass, systematically destroying what was left of the enemy force. Then the QRF arrived. 3 MRAPs and a medevac helicopter, coming in hard and fast. Alpha Team collapsed back to the LZ carrying the wounded. Harper stayed with them, monitoring vitals, keeping them stable until they could be transferred. The medevac touched down in a storm of dust and noise. Flight medics jumped out, took over the casualties. Harper gave them a rapid brief, injuries, treatments administered, vitals, then stepped back. Pike grabbed her arm. "Come on, Doc. You're done. Let's get you out of here." "I can still—" "You've been shot, beaten up, and running on fumes for 18 hours. You're getting on that bird." Pike's voice left no room for argument. "That's an order." Harper nodded, too exhausted to fight. She climbed into the helicopter and collapsed onto a bench seat. As the aircraft lifted, she looked down at the rocky outcrop where they'd made their stand. Smoke still rising, bodies scattered, evidence of a fight they'd somehow won. The door gunner caught her eye and gave her a thumbs up. Harper returned it weakly, then closed her eyes and let the exhaustion take her. She woke up in a field hospital, fluorescent lights burning her eyes, the smell of antiseptic sharp in her nose. A doctor was leaning over her, checking her pupils with a pen light. "Welcome back, Corpsman Sloan," the doctor said. "You've been out for 6 hours." Harper tried to sit up. Pain shot through her ribs. "The casualties, the wounded from my team, all stable. The 2 you brought out from the crash are in surgery, but they're expected to make full recoveries." The doctor put away his pen light. "Thanks to your field work, they didn't lose too much blood. You saved their lives." Harper lay back, relief flooding through her. "What about the rest of Alpha Team?" "Bruised, battered, but alive. They're in the recovery ward. You can see them when you're ready." "I'm ready now." The doctor smiled. "I bet you are, but you need to rest. You've got 3 cracked ribs, a concussion, multiple contusions, and you're severely dehydrated. You're staying put for at least 12 hours. Yeah, mummet." "Doc, that's not a request, Corpsman. You've done your job. Now let me do mine." Harper wanted to argue, but her body had other ideas. The exhaustion hit her like a wave, pulling her back down. She closed her eyes and drifted. When she woke again, it was dark outside. Pike was sitting in a chair beside her bed, reading a battered paperback. "You're a terrible patient," he said without looking up. The nurses say you've tried to get up 4 times. I need to check on... Everyone's fine. I just came from seeing them. Pike set the book down. Driscoll's got a sprained ankle. Cruz has some stitches. Vasquez is already talking about getting back in the field. We all made it, Doc, because of you. Harper shook her head. I just did my job. No, you did more than that. Pike leaned forward. When that helo went down, you could have focused on your own injuries. Instead, you treated 3 casualties under fire, held a defensive position, and kept everyone alive until help arrived. That's not just doing your job. That's being exceptional. Harper didn't know what to say. She stared at the ceiling, processing. There's something else, Pike continued. Command wants to see you, tomorrow. They've got questions about the last few ops, about your methods. Harper's stomach tightened. Am I in trouble? I don't know, but I'll be there with you. Whatever happens, you're not facing it alone. The next morning, Harper reported to the command center. Her ribs were taped, her head still throbbed, but she was upright and functional. Pike walked beside her, silent support. Major Kincaid was waiting inside, along with 2 officers Harper didn't recognize, a Navy captain and an Army colonel. The atmosphere was formal, tense. Corpsman Sloan, have a seat, Kincaid said. Harper sat. Pike stood behind her. The Navy captain spoke first. Corpsman Sloan, I'm Captain Rivera, Naval Special Warfare Command. This is Colonel Marsh, Army Special Operations. We've been reviewing your recent performance in theater. Harper kept her face neutral. Yes, sir. Rivera pulled up a file on his tablet. In the last 30 days, you've participated in 7 high-risk operations. You've treated 16 combat casualties with a 100% survival rate. You've also engaged and eliminated 12 enemy combatants, including 1 high-value target. Is that accurate? Yes, sir. You've also disobeyed direct orders on at least 2 occasions, gone rogue during a mission, and operated outside your scope of practice as a corpsman. Harper's jaw tightened. Sir, I did what was necessary to... Rivera held up a hand. I'm not finished. You've also demonstrated exceptional tactical judgment, advanced combat medicine skills, and the kind of initiative we rarely see at your rank and experience level. Harper blinked. Sir? Colonel Marsh leaned forward. Corpsman Sloan, what we're trying to determine is whether you're a liability or an asset. Your methods are unorthodox. Your disregard for protocol is concerning, but your results are undeniable. I understand, sir. Do you? Marsh's eyes were sharp. Because from where we're sitting, you're either the future of special operations medicine or a loose cannon waiting to cause an incident we can't contain. Pike spoke up. Sirs, if I may, Corpsman Sloan has saved more lives in 30 days than most medics save in entire deployments. Yes, she bends the rules, but she does it to get the job done. We're not questioning her dedication, Senior Chief, Rivera said. We're questioning whether she can operate within the military structure. Harper took a breath. Sirs, I joined the Navy to save lives. That's still my primary mission, but I learned pretty fast that out here, saving lives sometimes means taking them. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it, but I accept it as part of the job. And the disobeying orders? Marsh asked. I made judgment calls in the field based on the situation in front of me. Were they the right calls? I think the fact that everyone came home alive speaks for itself. Rivera and Marsh exchanged a look. Then Rivera turned back to Harper. We're pulling you off the line, he said. Harper's heart sank. Sir, let me finish. We're pulling you off the line to send you to a specialized training program. It's a pilot initiative, creating a new MOS that combines advanced tactical medicine with precision engagement capabilities. Hybrid operators who can function as both elite medics and combat assets. Harper stared. Sir, You'll be one of the first instructors, Marsh added. We want you to help build the curriculum, train the next generation. Your experience in theater, both the successes and the mistakes, will be invaluable. You want me to teach? Harper said slowly. We want you to lead, Rivera corrected. This program is going to change how we approach special operations medicine, and we need someone who's actually done it at the tip of the spear. Harper looked at Pike. He gave her a small nod. When do I start? She asked. As soon as you're medically cleared, Rivera said. 30 days, maybe less. You'll report to Coronado for the initial development phase. Yes, sir. Kincaid spoke for the first time. Sloan, I know I've been hard on you, but that's because I saw what you were capable of before you saw it yourself. You're going to do great things with this program. I'm certain of it. Harper felt something unexpected. Pride, maybe, or validation. Thank you, sir. The meeting ended. As Harper and Pike left the command center, he clapped her on the shoulder. Well, Doc, looks like you're moving up in the world. I just wanted to be a medic, Harper said. You are a medic. You're just also a lot more. Pike smiled. And now you get to teach other people how to be both. That's a hell of an opportunity. Yeah. Harper looked out at the base, the dust and concrete and exhaustion. It is. You gonna call your mom? Harper pulled out her phone. Yeah, I think I am. That night, Harper sat on the roof of the barracks one last time. The stars were brilliant, the desert quiet. She dialed her mother's number. Harper, sweetheart, how are you? I'm good, Mom. Really good. You sound different, stronger. Harper smiled. I am. I've got some news. She told her mother everything, the missions, the decisions, the new assignment. She didn't hold back, didn't soften the truth, and her mother listened without interrupting. When Harper finished, there was a long silence. Mom? You still there? I'm here. Her mother's voice was thick with emotion. I'm just processing. This is so different from what I imagined for you. I know, and I'm sorry I broke my promise. No, sweetheart. I'm sorry I asked you to make it. Her mother took a shaky breath. I wanted to keep you safe by keeping you small, but you're not small. You never were, and I should have trusted you to find your own path. Harper felt tears sting her eyes. I miss you, Mom. I miss you too. But I'm so proud of you. Not just because of what you've accomplished, but because of who you've become. You're strong, Harper. Stronger than I ever gave you credit for. I learned it from you. Her mother laughed softly. Flatterer. When are you coming home? I've got 30 days before the new assignment starts. I'll get leave before then. I'll come see you. I'd like that. And Harper? Yeah, Mom? Promise me something. Harper tensed. What? Promise me you'll take care of yourself. Not just other people. Yourself. Harper smiled through the tears. I promise, Mom. They talked for another hour, about home, about family, about all the normal things that felt impossibly far away. When they finally said goodbye, Harper felt lighter than she had in months. She put the phone away and lay back on the roof, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, Jensen and Murray were recovering. Al-Rifai was dead, Alpha Team was safe, and she, Harper Sloan, the medic who promised she'd never carry a rifle, had found a way to be both the healer and the warrior, not by choosing one over the other, but by accepting that sometimes mercy required violence, and that was okay. 30 days later, Harper stood in front of her first class at the Special Operations Training Facility in Coronado. 12 operators sat before her, SEALs, Raiders, Rangers, all of them experienced, all of them skeptical. She recognized that look. She'd seen it in the mirror once. My name is Corman Harper Sloan, she began, call sign Mercy, and I'm here to teach you how to be something the military's never had before, operators who can save lives and take them with equal skill. One of the students raised a hand. With respect, Corman, can you actually do that? Be both? Harper smiled. 6 months ago, I would have said no. I would have told you that medics save lives and shooters take them, and the two can't mix. But I learned something in theater. I learned that the battlefield doesn't care about your job description. It only cares whether you can do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. She pulled up images on the screen behind her. Combat scenarios, medical emergencies, impossible choices. You're going to learn advanced trauma medicine. You're going to learn precision marksmanship. You're going to learn how to function under pressure that would break most people. And most importantly, you're going to learn when to heal and when to fight. Another student spoke up. What if we're not sure? What if the situation's unclear? Then you make the best call you can with the information you have, Harper said, and you live with it. That's the job. She spent the next hour outlining the curriculum, answering questions, setting expectations. When the class ended, a few students lingered. Corpsman Sloan? It was a young SEAL, maybe 23. I heard about what you did in Khosrin, pulling those Marines out of the collapsed building. That true? Harper nodded. Yeah. And you really shot 4 hostiles in close quarters? Yeah. The SEAL studied her. How'd you deal with it? The aftermath? Harper recognized the question, the doubt, the weight. I dealt with it by accepting that I did what I had to do to keep people alive, she said, and by not apologizing for being good at something hard. You're going to face the same choices out there. And when you do, you need to trust yourself. Can you do that? The SEAL considered, then nodded. Yes, Corpsman. Good. Then you're going to be fine. 6 months into the program, Harper received an unexpected visitor. Pike showed up at the training facility, wearing dress blues, looking uncomfortable in the formal uniform. Senior Chief? Harper said, surprised. What are you doing here? Had a meeting in the area. Thought I'd swing by, see how the program's going. They walked through the facility, Pike observing the students running medical scenarios and live fire exercises. You've built something impressive here, Doc, he said. It's not just me. The whole cadre's been amazing. But you're the one who made it real. Pike stopped, turned to face her. I got word today. Jensen and Murray, the Marines you pulled out of Khosrin, they're both back on active duty, full recovery. Harper felt something warm bloom in her chest. That's great. They asked me to give you something. Pike handed her an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Corpsman Sloan. We heard you're training the next generation of operators. Good. The Corps needs more people like you. People who don't quit, don't hesitate, and don't leave anyone behind. Thanks for pulling us out of that hellhole. We owe you our lives. Jensen and Murray Harper read it twice, feeling the weight of those words. You okay? Pike asked. Yeah. Harper folded the note carefully. I'm good. They walked in silence for a moment. I heard the Navy's considering making this a permanent program, Pike said. Full MOS, dedicated training pipeline, everything. That's the rumor. And I heard they want you to run it. Harper smiled. That's also the rumor. You gonna say yes? Harper thought about it, about the Marines she'd saved, the fighters she'd killed, the promise she'd broken, and the person she'd become. Yeah, she said finally. I am. 1 year later, the hybrid operator program graduated its first class. 24 operators fully qualified in both advanced combat medicine and precision engagement. Harper stood on the reviewing stand, watching them march past, feeling pride swell in her chest. These weren't just medics. They weren't just shooters. They were something new, something necessary. After the ceremony, Harper found a quiet spot overlooking the ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. She pulled out her phone and called her mother. Hey, Mom. Harper, I saw the ceremony on the live stream. You look so official up there. Harper laughed. I felt ridiculous. You looked proud, and you should be. Thanks, Mom. How are you feeling? Really? Harper watched the waves roll in, steady and endless. I'm feeling complete. Like I finally figured out who I'm supposed to be. And who's that? Someone who doesn't choose between healing and fighting. Someone who does both when she has to. Someone who stopped apologizing for being good at hard things. Her mother was quiet for a moment. That sounds like a good person to be. I think so too. They talked until the sun disappeared below the horizon. When Harper finally hung up, she sat there in the growing dark, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. From the quiet medic everyone underestimated to the operator they couldn't ignore. From the girl who promised she'd never carry a rifle to the woman who taught others how to carry one while saving lives. It hadn't been easy, it hadn't been clean, but it had been necessary. And she'd do it all again. Quint. 5 years later, Harper stood in a different briefing room addressing a different audience. This time, it was senior military leadership, generals, admirals, policymakers. The hybrid operator program had grown beyond anyone's expectations. Hundreds of graduates now serving across every branch of special operations. The data speaks for itself, Harper said, pulling up survival statistics on the screen. Combat casualties treated by hybrid operators have a 98% survival rate. That's 15% higher than the previous standard. And in high-risk direct action raids, having operators who can both fight and provide immediate medical care has reduced preventable deaths by 40%. An admiral raised his hand. Commander Sloan, some critics argue that we're diluting the specialties, that medics should heal and operators should fight, and mixing the two creates mediocrity in both. Harper, now a full lieutenant commander, smiled. With respect, sir, the data disagrees. Our graduates score in the top 10% of both medical and marksmanship qualifications. They're not mediocre at two things. They're exceptional at both. Because we don't ask them to choose. We ask them to be complete. The Admiral nodded, satisfied. After the briefing, Harper walked through the training facility one last time. Students were running live-fire medical scenarios, treating casualties while under simulated enemy fire, making split-second decisions about who to save and when to fight. She watched a young operator, couldn't be more than 22, drop 2 targets with precision shots, then immediately transition to treating a simulated sucking chest wound. Fast, smooth, no hesitation. That was the dream. That was what she'd built. Pike appeared beside her. He was older now, grayer, carrying the rank of Master Chief. "Hell of a thing you've created here, Commander," he said. "We created it," Harper corrected. "You were there from the beginning." "I was. But you were the one who had the courage to be both things when everyone said it was impossible." Pike watched the students. "You changed the game, Doc. For good." Harper thought about that, about the scared corpsman who'd stepped off a plane in Kosrin, about the promise she'd broken, about the person she'd become. "I just stopped fighting who I was," she said quietly, "and started owning it." "That's the lesson right there." Pike clapped her on the shoulder. "Come on. The brass wants to talk to you about expanding the program to allied forces. You're going to have to brief NATO next month." Harper groaned. "You're kidding." "Nope. You're a big deal now, Commander. Better get used to it." They walked toward the administration building, leaving the students to their training. Behind them, the sound of gunfire and medical instruction blended into one continuous rhythm, the sound of a new kind of warrior being forged. Medic and fighter. Healer and warrior. Not half of either, but all of both. The way it should be. The way Harper Sloan had proven it could be. 10 years after that first deployment, Harper sat in her office at the Special Operations Medical Training Center, now a permanent institution with facilities at 3 locations. The walls were lined with photos, graduating classes, successful missions, letters from operators she'd trained who'd gone on to save lives in combat. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Commander Sloan?" "Commander, this is Corporal Jensen. Not sure if you remember me, but..." "Jensen, of course I remember. How are you?" "Good, ma'am. Real good. I'm actually calling because I just graduated from the hybrid operator program, Class 47, and I wanted to thank you." Harper felt emotion tighten her throat. "You joined the program?" "Yes, ma'am. After you pulled me out of that building in Kosrin, I knew I wanted to be able to do that for someone else. So I put in for training, just finished last month." That's incredible, Jensen. "Thank you, ma'am, for everything. For saving my life, for building this program, for showing us all that we don't have to be just one thing." After they hung up, Harper sat there for a long time, staring at the photos on her wall. Then she pulled out a piece of paper and started writing. Not a report, not a brief, a letter. "Mom, I know I don't write as often as I should, but I wanted to tell you that I finally understand what you were trying to protect me from all those years ago when you made me promise. You were trying to keep me from becoming hard, from losing myself in the violence. And I won't lie. There were moments when I thought I had. When the weight of every decision, every shot fired, every life taken seemed too heavy to carry. But I didn't lose myself. I found myself in the balance between healing and fighting, in the understanding that strength isn't choosing one part of yourself and burying the rest. It's accepting all of who you are and using it to do good in the world. I'm not the girl who made that promise anymore, but I'm also not someone you'd be ashamed of. I'm someone who saves lives. And sometimes, to save those lives, I have to take others. It's not easy. It's not clean. but it's necessary. And I've made peace with that. I hope you have too. Love, Harper. She sealed the letter, addressed it, set it aside to mail. Then she turned to her computer and started reviewing applications for the next training class. There was work to do, lives to save, operators to train, and Harper Sloan, Mercy, was exactly where she needed to be. The sun set over Coronado, painting the ocean in fire and gold. Somewhere out there, operators she'd trained were in the field, saving lives, making impossible choices, being both healers and warriors. And Harper knew, with absolute certainty, that they'd be ready. Because she'd taught them the most important lesson she'd ever learned. Strength isn't choosing one part of yourself and burying the rest. Strength is becoming fully who you're meant to be and using every skill, every ability, every hard-won piece of yourself to make the world better than you found it. Heal when you can, fight when you must, know the difference, and never apologize for being exceptional at both. Harper never mailed the letter. Not because she changed her mind, but because 3 hours after she wrote it, her mother called. And the conversation that followed changed everything. Harper, sweetheart, I need to tell you something. Harper's stomach tightened at the tone. Mom, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, not exactly. Her mother took a breath. I've been thinking about what you said, about becoming who you're meant to be. And I realized I never told you the whole truth about why I made you promise. Harper set down her pen. What do you mean? Your father, before he died. He was like you, Harper, a medic in the army, but he also carried a rifle, and he was very good with it. The world seemed to tilt slightly. You never told me that. Because I was ashamed that I asked him to be less than he was, ashamed that I tried to protect him by making him choose. Her mother's voice cracked. And then he died anyway. Not because he fought, not because he healed, but because a roadside bomb doesn't care who you are. Harper closed her eyes. Mom, I made you promise because I was terrified of losing you the same way. But all I did was try to make you small, and you were never meant to be small, Harper. Your father wasn't either. He was exceptional, just like you. Harper felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I wasn't ready to face it. But watching you become who you are, watching you refuse to be anything less than everything, it made me realize something. You're not just like your father. You're better, because you're not trying to hide who you are. You're owning it. I wish I'd known him. So do I, sweetheart. But in a way, you do know him, because everything he was, the courage, the skill, the refusal to quit, it's all in you. They talked for 2 more hours. Her mother told stories Harper had never heard, about her father's deployments, his decorations, the lives he'd saved, about the man who'd been both warrior and healer long before Harper was born. When they finally said goodbye, Harper sat in her office with the letter in her hand. Then she tore it up. She didn't need to send it anymore. The conversation had said everything that mattered. Her father had walked this path before her, and now she understood why it felt so right. The call came 2 weeks later. Emergency deployment, a joint task force operation in hostile territory. High-value target, complex terrain, significant casualties expected, and they wanted Harper there, not as an instructor, but as an operator. You haven't been in the field in 3 years, Commander, Captain Rivera said over the video call. Are you sure you want to do this? Harper didn't hesitate. Yes, sir. Why? You've got a good thing here. Important work. No one would blame you for staying stateside. Because my students need to see that I'm not just teaching theory, that I've done everything I'm asking them to do, and because there are Marines out there who need help. Rivera nodded slowly. All right, but this one's heavy, Commander. Coalition hostages held in a fortified compound. Intel says 2 are critical, multiple gunshot wounds, possible sepsis. The extraction window is tight. If we don't get them out in the next 48 hours, they die. Who else is on the team? Your old friend Pike, Driscoll, Cruz, a few others from your original task force. They specifically requested you. Harper felt something stir in her chest. Anticipation, maybe, or purpose. When do we leave? 18 hours, There's a transport waiting at North Island. I'll be there. Proceed. Harper spent the next 12 hours preparing. She pulled her old combat gear from storage, plate carrier, rifle, med kit. Everything was outdated, worn, but familiar. She cleaned and checked each piece, muscle memory taking over. Pike found her in the armory at 0300. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. Nope. Harper loaded magazines with the same methodical precision she'd learned a decade ago. You sure you want me on this op, Senior Chief? I'm out of practice. Master Chief now, actually. And yeah, I'm sure. Pike sat down across from her. You know why? Why? Because when things go sideways, and they will, I need someone who can think under pressure. Someone who won't freeze when they have to choose between saving a life and taking one. That's you, Commander. Always has been. Harper smiled faintly. You trying to flatter me into this? Nope. Just telling the truth. Pike stood. Transport leaves in 6 hours. Get some rest if you can. Pike? He turned. Thanks for pulling me back in. Don't thank me yet. This one's going to be ugly. Well, the briefing happened on the aircraft carrier, 30 miles off the coast. The task force assembled in a secure compartment, 12 operators, all of them experienced, all of them carrying the weight of too many missions. The team leader was a Marine colonel named Reeves. He pulled up satellite imagery on the screen. Target compound is here, 15 clicks inside hostile territory. Triple-walled perimeter, guard towers, estimated 30 to 40 enemy fighters. The hostages are being held in the central building, basement level. Driscoll raised his hand. Intel on their condition? Bad. Video sent 2 days ago showed both conscious but barely. One has what looks like infected gunshot wounds to the abdomen. The other has chest trauma, possibly punctured lung. Without immediate medical intervention, they won't survive the week. Harper studied the imagery. Extraction route? That's the problem. The compound backs up to a cliff face. Only viable exfil is through the front gate or by helo from the courtyard. Both are exposed. So we go in hard, fast, and loud, Pike said. Exactly. Breaching teams hit the outer walls simultaneously. Support elements suppress the towers. Assault team, that's us, pushes to the central building, secures the hostages, and extracts via helo from the courtyard. Reeves looked at Harper. Commander Sloan, you're primary medical. Your job is to stabilize the hostages for transport. Everything else is secondary. Understood, sir. One more thing. Intel suggests the enemy knows we're coming. They've reinforced the compound in the last 24 hours. This isn't going to be a clean op. The room was quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. High casualties, significant resistance, the kind of fight where people didn't come home. Questions? Reeves asked. Just one, sir, Cruz said. When do we go? Tonight. Wheels up at 2200. The helos came in low over the desert, using the terrain to mask their approach. Harper sat in the back of the lead bird, flanked by Pike and Driscoll. The familiar tension settled over her, anticipation mixed with focus, adrenaline sharpening everything. Through the open door, she could see the compound appear below. Even in the darkness, it looked formidable. Walls, towers, lights, a fortress designed to keep people out. Or keep them in. The pilot's voice crackled. 30 seconds. Harper checked her gear one final time, rifle loaded, medkit secured. She ran through the plan in her head. Breach, locate, stabilize, extract. 4 steps. 1,000 things that could go wrong. 10 seconds. The helo flared hard. Harper was out before the wheels touched down, boots hitting dirt, weapon up. The assault team moved as one toward the outer wall. Breaching charges detonated simultaneously at 3 points. The wall shattered. The team poured through. The courtyard erupted with gunfire. Muzzle flashes from the towers, from windows, from covered positions. Harper dropped to one knee, acquired a target, fired. The tower guard fell. Moving! Pike shouted. They crossed the courtyard in a wedge formation, suppressing threats, advancing under fire. Harper stayed focused, her training automatic. Breathe, aim, fire, move. They hit the central building hard. The door was reinforced. Driscoll set a charge. The explosion blew it inward. Flashbang through the gap. Blinding light. The assault team flooded inside. The first floor was chaos, enemy fighters everywhere, firing from behind furniture, from doorways, from the stairs. The team engaged, clearing rooms with brutal efficiency. Harper dropped 2 fighters who appeared from a side corridor, then kept moving. "Basement access, east side," Cruz called out. They stacked up on the stairwell. Pike led the descent, weapons sweeping the darkness. Harper followed close, her pulse steady despite the noise above. The basement was a concrete maze, narrow hallways, locked doors, the smell of blood and infection thick in the air. "Check every room," Reeves ordered. They moved fast, kicking doors, clearing spaces. Harper found the hostages in the 3rd room, 2 men in civilian clothes, chained to a wall, both unconscious. "Got them!" she shouted. She dropped to her knees beside the first hostage, assessing. Multiple gunshot wounds to the abdomen, badly infected. Fever burning through him, breathing shallow. The second hostage had chest trauma, visible bruising, labored breathing, possibly multiple broken ribs and a punctured lung. "How bad?" Pike asked, covering the door. "Critical, both of them." Harper started working, IV lines, antibiotics, pain management. "I need 5 minutes to stabilize." "You've got 3. Enemies pushing hard upstairs." Harper worked faster. She inserted a chest tube into the second hostage, heard the hiss of air escaping. His breathing eased slightly. She turned to the first hostage, packing the abdominal wounds with hemostatic gauze, pushing fluids. "Done," she said. "We can move them." They cut the chains and hauled the hostages up the stairs. The building shook with explosions. The firefight above had intensified, enemy reinforcements pouring in from somewhere. They emerged onto the ground floor to find the assault team pinned down. Enemy fighters had blocked the main exit and were advancing from multiple directions. "We're cut off," Driscoll shouted. "Can't reach the LZ." Reeves keyed his radio. "Air support. We need immediate extraction. Primary LZ is compromised." "Negative, Reaper 6. LZ is too hot. Enemies brought up anti-air. We can't land." "Then what do you suggest?" "Secondary exfil point, 1 click north. There's a clearing. We can pick you up there." "We've got 2 critical casualties. They won't survive a 1-click movement." Harper grabbed Reeves's arm. "They will if I keep them stable. We move now." Reeves looked at her, then nodded. "All right, leapfrog movement to the north wall, covering fire." The team moved in coordinated bounds, half suppressing while the other half displaced. Harper stayed with the casualties, monitoring vitals, even as rounds snapped overhead. The first hostage was slipping, pulse thready, breathing irregular. She pushed more fluids, adjusted his position to keep his airway clear. They fought their way to the north wall. Cruz blew the gate. The team poured through into the desert night. The enemy followed. For the next 30 minutes, it was a running firefight through broken terrain. Harper carried the second hostage, while Pike and Driscoll hauled the first. They moved under constant fire, stopping periodically to return shots, then moving again. Harper's world narrowed to a single focus: keep the casualties alive. Everything else, the gunfire, the exhaustion, the fear, faded into background noise. They reached the clearing just as the medevac helo appeared on the horizon, but the enemy was right behind them, pressing hard. "Set up defensive perimeter," Reeves ordered. "Hold them until the bird lands." The team formed a line, pouring fire into the advancing enemy. Harper worked on the casualties, reassessing vitals. The first hostage was crashing, blood pressure dropping, pulse barely palpable. "Come on," she muttered, starting CPR. "Don't you quit on me now." 30 compressions, 2 breaths, check pulse. Nothing. 30 more compressions, 2 more breaths. Check pulse. There. Faint, but there. The medevac touched down in a storm of dust. Flight medics jumped out. Harper gave them a rapid brief while continuing CPR. They loaded both casualties. Harper climbed aboard, refusing to let go. "Doc, we're at capacity," the crew chief shouted. "You need to stay." "I'm not leaving them," Harper shouted back. "They crash in transit, they die, I'm going." The crew chief looked at Reeves, who nodded. "Get her on board." Harper stayed with the casualties as the helo lifted. She continued working, CPR on one, monitoring vitals on the other, pushing medications, adjusting IVs. The flight medics worked beside her, following her lead. 15 minutes into the flight, the first hostage's heart stopped. Harper went back to CPR. "Get me the AED." They shocked him once, twice. 3 times. On the 4th shock, his heart restarted. Weak, irregular, but beating. "He's back," Harper said, not stopping compressions. "Don't you die. You don't get to die." They made it to the field hospital. Surgeons took over immediately, rushing both casualties into operating rooms. Harper stood in the hallway, covered in blood, shaking from exhaustion. Pike appeared beside her. "You okay?" "Ask me in an hour." They waited. 1 hour became 2, then 3. Finally, a surgeon emerged. "Both hostages are stable," he said. "It was close. If they had arrived even 10 minutes later, we would have lost them both. Whoever did the field work saved their lives." Harper nodded, too tired to speak. "That was you, wasn't it?" the surgeon asked. "Yeah." "Hell of a job, Commander." The after-action debrief happened 2 days later, back on the carrier. Harper sat with the rest of the task force, listening as Reeves presented the results. Mission successful. Both hostages recovered, expected to make full recovery. Enemy force neutralized. 0 friendly casualties. He paused. This operation succeeded because every member of this team executed with precision under extreme pressure. But I want to specifically recognize Commander Sloan. Harper looked up, surprised. Commander Sloan performed CPR under fire, stabilized 2 critical casualties in a hostile environment, and refused to abandon them even when evacuation became compromised. Her actions directly resulted in saving both hostages. The room applauded. Harper felt heat rise to her cheeks. After the debrief, Captain Rivera pulled her aside. "Walk with me, Commander." They stepped out onto the flight deck. The sun was setting, painting the ocean in gold and red. "You did exceptional work out there," Rivera said. "Thank you, sir." "I'm recommending you for the Navy Cross." Harper stopped walking. "Sir, Don't argue. You earned it, but that's not why I wanted to talk to you." Rivera turned to face her. "I'm also recommending you for promotion. Captain, with command of the entire hybrid operator program across all branches." Harper felt the weight of those words. Captain. Full command. The culmination of everything she'd built. That's a huge responsibility, sir." "It is, but you're ready for it. More than ready." Rivera smiled. "You've proven that operators can be both healers and warriors. Now it's time to prove that a leader can be both too." "When would this happen?" 6 months. You'd need to complete some additional training, get your command qualifications, but the position's yours if you want it." Harper looked out at the ocean, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. From the scared corpsman in Khosran to the commander who'd just saved 2 lives under impossible conditions. "I want it," she said. "Good. Because we need you." Rivera extended his hand. "Congratulations, Captain Sloan." Harper shook it, feeling the title settle over her like armor. "Captain, commander of the program, leader of something that would change special operations forever." 6 months later, Harper stood in dress whites at the change of command ceremony. The entire hybrid operator program was assembled, over 300 graduates now serving across every theater. Pike stood beside her on the platform holding the program's guidon. When Rivera gave the signal, Pike passed it to Harper. "I hereby relinquish command," Rivera said. "I hereby assume command," Harper replied. The audience erupted in applause. Harper looked out at the faces, students she'd trained, operators she'd served with, leaders who'd believed in the vision. When the ceremony ended, she found her mother waiting in the crowd. "Mom, you came." "Of course I came." Her mother pulled her into a tight hug. "I wouldn't miss this for anything." They walked together through the facility, Harper pointing out different training areas, explaining the curriculum. Her mother listened, asking questions, genuinely interested. "Your father would be so proud," she said finally. "I wish he could see this." "I think he can," Harper said. "In a way," her mother smiled. "You're probably right." They found a quiet spot overlooking the training ranges. Harper could hear the sound of gunfire mixed with medical instruction, the rhythm of her program, the sound of warriors being forged. "I need to tell you something, Mom," Harper said. "Something I should have said a long time ago." "What's that?" "Thank you for making me promise, for trying to protect me. because it gave me something to fight against, something to prove wrong, and that made me stronger. Her mother's eyes glistened. You don't have anything to prove, sweetheart. Not to me, not to anyone. I know, but the journey to figuring that out, that's what made me who I am. They sat together as the sun set, mother and daughter, finally understanding each other across the impossible distance of experience and choice. 1 year later, Harper received a package in the mail. No return address, just a postmark from Virginia. Inside was a photo. The two hostages she'd saved, standing together, healthy and whole. On the back, someone had written, "Thank you for not giving up on us. You gave us our lives back." Harper pinned the photo to her office wall next to all the others. Then she sat down and started reviewing applications for the next training class. Her phone rang. It was Jensen. "Captain Sloan, it's Jensen. I've got some news." "What's up, Jensen?" "I just got selected for the advanced instructor course. They want me to help train the next generation of hybrid operators." Harper felt pride bloom in her chest. "That's fantastic, Jensen. You're going to be great at it." "I learned from the best, ma'am." He paused. "I wanted to ask you something. Why do you think this program works? Why does the hybrid model succeed when everyone said it couldn't?" Harper thought about that. About all the missions, all the choices, all the lives saved and taken. "Because we stopped pretending that healing and fighting are opposites," she said finally. "We recognize that sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is be willing to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. And sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is refuse to kill when killing would be easier than saving." "It's about balance," Jensen said. "No, it's about wholeness, about accepting every part of yourself and using it all to do good in the world." They talked for another 20 minutes, then Harper hung up and returned to the applications. Each one represented a person who wanted to be more than half of something, who wanted to be complete. And Harper was going to give them that chance. But 5 years later, on the 10th anniversary of the Hybrid Operator Program, Harper stood before a crowd of over 1,000 people. Graduates, active operators, military leadership, and families. The program had grown beyond her wildest expectations. 10 years ago, she began, I was a corpsman who'd just broken a promise to my mother. I'd picked up a rifle when I'd sworn I never would, and I thought that made me a failure. She paused, looking out at the faces. But I learned something in the years since. I learned that promises made in safety don't always survive contact with reality. That sometimes the most important thing you can do is accept who you really are. Not who someone else wants you to be or who you thought you should be, but who you actually are when everything's on the line. Harper gestured to the operators assembled before her. These men and women represent a new kind of warrior. They don't choose between healing and fighting. They do both. They save lives with the same hands they use to defend those lives. And they do it without apology, without hesitation, because they understand something fundamental, that true strength isn't about being one thing. It's about being everything you're capable of being. The crowd erupted in applause. Harper let it wash over her, feeling the weight of a decade's work, a decade's sacrifice, a decade's validation. When the ceremony ended, Pike found her backstage. Hell of a speech, Captain. Harper smiled. Thanks, Master Chief. I heard a rumor you're being considered for Admiral. Where'd you hear that? I have my sources. Pike grinned. You gonna take it if they offer? Honestly, I don't know. I like what I'm doing here. I like training operators, building the program, being part of something that matters. That's not what admirals do? Admirals do politics, paperwork. I'd rather be here with the people doing the real work. Pike nodded. I get that. But just so you know, you'd be a hell of an admiral. We'll see. They walked out of the building together, two operators who'd been through hell and come out stronger. The sun was setting over Coronado, painting everything in shades of orange and gold. You ever think about that first op? Pike asked. The one where you dropped those 3 fighters to save Choi? Every day, Harper said. Any regrets? Harper thought about that, about the promise broken, the lives taken, the person she'd become. No, she said finally. No regrets. Because every choice I made, every shot fired, every life saved led me here. to this program, to these operators, to a future where warriors don't have to be just one thing. That's a good answer. They stood there in comfortable silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. Somewhere out there, operators Harper had trained were in the field, saving lives, making impossible choices, being both healers and warriors. And they were doing it without the doubt, without the guilt, without the weight of a broken promise, because Harper had walked that path first, had proven it could be done, had built something that would outlast her by generations, and that was enough. More than enough. Harper retired from active duty at the age of 45. By then, the hybrid operator program had trained over 5,000 operators across 12 allied nations. Combat casualty survival rates had increased by 30%. Preventable deaths in special operations had dropped to historic lows. The day of her retirement ceremony, she stood before the assembled crowd one last time. 23 years ago, I stepped off a plane in Kasserine as a scared corpsman who thought she knew who she was supposed to be. I thought my job was to heal, nothing more, nothing less. Harper smiled. I was wrong. My job wasn't just to heal, it was to be complete, to accept every part of myself, the gentle and the fierce, the compassionate and the lethal, and use all of it in service of something bigger than myself. She looked out at the faces, young operators just starting their journey, veterans who'd been with her from the beginning, families who'd sacrificed so much. I'm retiring today, but this program, this vision of what warriors can be, it's just getting started. Because you don't need me anymore. You've got each other. You've got the training. You've got the example of thousands of operators who've proven that being both a healer and a fighter isn't just possible. It's essential. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. Harper stood at attention, feeling tears slide down her cheeks, not bothering to hide them. When it ended, she walked off the stage and into the rest of her life. But before she left the building, she stopped at the wall of photos one last time. 10 years of graduating classes, successful missions, lives saved. Jensen appeared beside her. He was a lieutenant now, running one of the regional training centers. You did it, Captain. You changed everything. Harper shook her head. We did it, all of us. What are you going to do now? I'm going home, to see my mother, to rest, to figure out who I am when I'm not Captain Sloan anymore. Oh, Jensen smiled. You'll always be Captain Sloan to us. Maybe, but it's time to figure out who Harper is. She left Coronado that evening, driving north toward home with the windows down and the radio off. Just the sound of wind and engine and the open road ahead. When she pulled into her mother's driveway, the porch light was on. Her mother stood in the doorway, waiting. Welcome home, sweetheart. Harper walked into her mother's arms and let herself be held, not as a captain, not as an operator, just as a daughter who'd fought hard and come home whole. I'm proud of you, her mother whispered. Your father would be too. I know, Mom. I finally know. They sat on the porch that night, drinking tea, watching the stars. Harper told stories her mother had never heard, about the missions, the operators she'd trained, the lives saved. Do you think it was worth it? Her mother asked. Everything you gave up? Everything you went through? Harper didn't hesitate. Yes, every sacrifice, every hard choice, every moment I thought I couldn't keep going. It was all worth it, because I helped create something that will save lives for generations. And the promise you broke? It was the right promise to break, Mom, because it led me to who I was always meant to be. Her mother smiled. Your father used to say something similar. He said sometimes the promises we make in peace don't survive the test of war, but the person we become in that crucible, that's who we really are. He was right. They sat in comfortable silence, two women who'd finally bridged the impossible distance between safety and sacrifice, between intention and reality. Harper Sloan had started as a medic who swore she'd never fight. She'd become a warrior who never stopped healing. And in the end, she'd proven that being both wasn't a contradiction. It was the whole point. Mom, years later, when they asked Harper to speak at the dedication of the National Special Operations Memorial, she stood before a crowd of thousands and told them the truth. I was shot 9 times in a building that was falling down around me. They pulled me from the rubble and expected to find a body. Instead, They found someone who'd refused to quit. Not because I was brave, not because I was special, but because I understood something fundamental about what it means to serve. Harper paused, looking at the memorial, names carved in stone, lives given in service. Every person whose name is on this wall made a choice, to be more than one thing, to serve with everything they had, courage and compassion, strength and mercy, the willingness to fight and the commitment to heal. They didn't do it perfectly, none of us do, but they did it completely. She looked out at the crowd, operators, families, civilians who'd come to honor the fallen. That's what I want you to remember. That strength isn't about choosing one part of yourself and bearing the rest. Strength is becoming fully who you're meant to be, every skill, every ability, every hard-won piece of yourself, and using it all to make the world better than you found it. The crowd was silent, listening. Heal when you can, fight when you must. Know the difference, and never, ever apologize for being exceptional at both. Harper stepped back from the podium. The crowd erupted in applause, but she wasn't listening anymore. She was looking at the wall, at the names, thinking about all the warriors who'd walked this path before her. Her father's name was there, carved in granite. Harper reached out and touched it, feeling the cold stone under her fingers. "I understand now, Dad," she whispered. "Finally understand." Then she turned and walked away, leaving the memorial behind but carrying its lesson forward. The lesson she'd spent a lifetime learning. The lesson she dedicated her career to teaching. The lesson that would echo through generations of warriors who came after her. You are not defined by the promises others ask you to make. You are defined by what you do when those promises meet reality, and whether you have the courage to become fully, unapologetically, magnificently yourself in service of something greater. Strength isn't half of anything. It's all of everything. And the world needs warriors brave enough to be both.